It's the intergalactic soul, the honorable brother, the revolutionary yourself, Darius Lockhart, and I'm here to tell you to watch Powerbombshells every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern on the Fight Game Media YouTube channel. That's right, every Sunday at 1 p.m., and that's on time, every time, because when we stand together, what time is it? That's right, it's nation time.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 119 of Powerbombshells. I am Sam, that is Mel. We are just two broads talking about the wrestling that we enjoy, and today we have a special guest with us, but I guess we should bring the special guest on and then play our very nice audio that we have.
Oh, she might enjoy it too. I don't know.
She might. And so, and we have hello to everybody in the chat. And Daza, unfortunately, is not the founder of Wrestling Wind Down. It is not them. However, the founder of Wrestling Wind Down is here with us today, and her name is Lo, and she's here with us. And so, welcome to the show, Lo.
Thank you guys for having me.
So glad that you are here. Yeah, Lo was like, I want to do some podcasts. I was like, come do ours.
I'm so glad. I definitely I caught a couple podcasts and I'm excited. I'm like, oh, she likes video games. She likes all kinds of stuff. I'm excited.
Yeah. Yes, and she has excellent merch, which I have.
Yes,
I'm wearing today. I am wearing my custom "Bad Bitches for Canadian Destroyers" shirts. I have had that idea for a while, and then like every time she opened her customs, my car was like, "Hey, you need to fix me. You need to put money." And I was like, "Come on, let me get this shirt." And so finally, I was like, "Screw you, car! I'm getting my shirt." so I finally got it, and it is very. Let me tell you, this shirt is very, very soft. And it's very comfortable. And I got my sister a shirt too. I got her the "But Daddy, I Love Wrestling" shirt, which I don't know if we have a picture of those.
I am working on pulling that up right now.
Sorry to put you on the spot, so we will go back.
No, that's okay. I know exactly where it is. I was trying to do it while you were talking, but of course, because it's us and nothing can ever go exactly the way you want it to go.
Of course. Yes. And so
Brad's going to be like, what? Your slides aren't open, but my slides are open, but no, they aren't.
Brad says, yes, I love rocking my Eddie Kingston one. He's a proud bad bitch. Yes.
I love to see
bad
it.
Bitches, you don't have to, Lo has told the people that it's bad bitches are genderless. Anybody can be a bad bitch. And so,
yes.
Especially when it comes to Eddie Kingston and Willow Nightingale, I think everybody is pretty much bad bitches for them.
I already had, when I saw the bad bitches for Ricky Starks one, I really wanted to buy it for John because he was like, and I know he would wear it. I have absolutely no question in my mind that he would wear it regularly. Let's see. We're going to add some pictures to the stage.
Yes.
But yes. That's the one. That's the perfect. See, Sam, it worked out perfect. I even
perfectly. Yes, that's the one that Nikki has because it was perfect for her. I mean, like, I love it anyway, but one of Nikki's favorite movies ever is The Little Mermaid. And of course, we are huge wrestling fans. So we had to, I showed her and I was like, Nikki, wait till you see this collection she's about to drop. And so when I ordered my shirt, I ordered Nikki a shirt too. So she's very excited about that.
That is awesome. One of my I really enjoy like uploading them. It was just fun uploading the pictures because I was like, oh, this is a lot of fun. And for those of you who are wondering, I even have, check this out. Blam!
Yes.
Look at that. I am.
And we'll post the link to our Twitter too, because that way you don't have to. We know most people aren't going to write down. They're not going to write down anything. Yeah, they need to click it. So we will put up clickable links for them. But yes, and you've got like all kinds of amazing merch, and we'll post pictures of them. So how do you come up with like your ideas of what you want to make shirts of?
So I always say I make merch that I would wear. I think it's important when you are making merchandise that you're making stuff that you would actually like, not something that you're not passionate about. So every single piece that I have in my store, I would wear. And I also think about, my main consumers. I really make wrestling shirts for the girlies. Obviously, men come in and they wear it as well, which is great. But I realize that there is a lack of female merchandise in a lot of these wrestling stores. There's a lot of, blacks, grays, blues, greens. There's no pink. There's no purple. There's no, there's nothing that is like very feminine. So when I first started watching wrestling, I was like 9 or 10, and I was wearing, the typical John Cena shirts and the stuff off WWE Shop. And, as I got older, I was like, there's a disconnect. And this was even before I had my podcast. And Wrestling Wind Down has been around for 5 years now, and we really just got into merch a couple of years ago. Started out with the 1-800 War Daddy shirt, which was a spin on the Hotline Bling and then Wardlow. So that's what really started it. And then we still have the Black Wrestling Queen shirt, and then we had the Bad Bitches Love Wrestling. So Bad Bitches Love Wrestling was the official or the original idea for the Bad Bitches shirt. And from there, I start just customizing them. I had someone who wanted a Ricky Starks shirt, and then I realized like there are so many people, obviously not trademarked, who need merch for the girlies. So now we have Daniel Garcia, we have Willow, we have Eddie Kingston, and we've also done customs, as you mentioned. So customs open up seasonally. I take about 30 to 40 of those, and it's all non-trademark names. It's factions. I've had wrestling moves, obviously, like your shirt, but it's what
the bad witches. Listen to me. Bad Bitches Love Wrestling shirt there for everybody real quick. I just pop that on. Keep going. I didn't not mean to interrupt. Trying to do this.
But yeah, the way that I come up with my ideas, I really just think about stuff that I enjoy. I take a lot of inspiration from pop culture. So we have a lot of items in the store that are dedicated to like Megan Thee Stallion. We have the Little Mermaid. We have some other stuff coming up that is really pop culture centric. We don't see a lot of that meshing between pop culture and wrestling, even though wrestling is really diving back into the pop culture scene. Especially you have Sexy Red, that's going to be on NXT. You have Sweetie that just came out of the show last week. Like there's so much connection between pop culture, specifically hip hop, and wrestling, that it just makes me excited to just create stuff that just showcases that.
I love Mashable.
Kind of funny that the Daddy shirt also, because you announced it or that it was coming, and then I think a week or so later Taylor Swift released her track listing, and she has a song called But Daddy I Love Him. And so I was like, I don't know how many people are going to think it's because of the Taylor Swift song, but I was like, I mean, if it gets I was like, there are a small fraction of us that are Little Mermaid, Taylor Swift, and wrestling fans, so this collection is for us.
But wait, you can have multiple interests at the same time? Are you serious? I thought you had to live and breathe one thing and one thing only.
Especially as a woman, right?
Especially as a woman. I love Mashables. I have a very good friend who he's always constantly making the when someone asks him the Star Wars joke, he'll be like, I love Star Trek kind of jokes. He's great at it. He pops me every time. So I just think that that's just the coolest thing in the world. And Keith Lee, to your point, was one of the very first people who put out on the indies when he was in Evolve, put out a pink shirt that had Bask in My Glory on it. It's awesome. And everybody went, I was so lucky. I got one of the last ones he was selling because it was the last Evolve tour he was doing. And it was like his last time here in Michigan. And I swear I showed up at a couple extra shows and they were like, oh man, I wanted one of those so bad. I didn't have any left. And I'm just like, but it's one of my favorite wrestling shirts because it's all my other wrestling shirts are basically black. And this one is pink. And it's Keith Lee. And it's awesome. It's like one of my favorite shirts to wear.
Some weird design on it. I'm like, where do these dudes get these designs from? They're just the most I looked at wrestler shirts before and I was like, there's no way I would wear that. I don't know any woman who would wear that shirt, even no matter how much they love that wrestler. They're like, that shirt is not for me. So I'm so glad that you have entered the market with this because we definitely need it. And then I know that can you talk about some of the new stuff that's coming, or do you need to? I know that you've hinted at a couple of things recently, but do you want to talk about that at all?
We have some wine glasses coming. So I've been thinking about wine glasses for a while now, and I had someone, shout out to Lovely Laveau, who had mentioned it a couple months ago, and I was like, oh, she read my mind because I'm thinking about this, and I was trying to figure out when to put it out. So those are coming this summer. I have some embroidered stuff coming out as well. There are some new stuff on the website in terms of But Daddy I Love Wrestling. We have the red font now, and we also have like a DX green, so it's like this color green.
Oh,
On
I
the
think I
website.
saw. Yes,
Yeah.
you had
So,
like the DX green.
yeah.
That was, yes. Okay. Yes, I did see that. Yeah, it looks awesome.
Yeah. So
Variants are
that stuff
fun.
is up. Yeah. But very excited. There's a lot of stuff coming, and I'm thinking of stuff every single day and just adding it to my list and trying to figure out how to, incorporate it in and go from there.
Yeah, definitely. And there was a comment before we started talking about shirts. I'm going to go back up to it real quick before we get into some other questions for you. But Daza wanted to know if those are wrestling figures on your wall.
They are. So it's AEW right there. All those are AEW. And then on the other side is the WWE. So I have Funko Pops. I have 2 action figures. I have some stuff that I still need to add. I have like that blank spot in the middle where I'm like, I don't really know what to put there. I haven't found the perfect thing yet. So hoping that something catches my eye sooner rather than later that I can put in the middle. But for now, I've been separating the 2 because I feel like their products are so different in terms of packaging that I don't want to mismatch them. But yes, those are figures. Those are Funko Pops. I have Willow back there, and then I have Jade, Naomi, and Bianca from WrestleMania this year right in the middle underneath the sign.
So, you know what? I think I saw you post that on Twitter. It looks so cool. It's a really, really cool picture of the 3 of them.
It really is.
I love that picture of them. That's such a cool thing to have right there.
I'm so jealous of your neon sign. I can't get over it.
I know. I keep looking at it. I was like,
I'm like, oh man, that's fun.
I need a neon sign behind me.
I mean, it's, I talk about this with people sometimes is where, it's like you can have like the crazy backdrops and stuff, but sometimes it's really fun because and especially for someone like that's doing what we're doing. So you are a connoisseur of wrestling merch who's trying to make it accessible more, like, and how do you come up with the ideas? Like, is it just hit you, or is it just stuff from the podcast? Or, I mean, I know that you said sometimes it's pop culture and all of these things, but like,
sometimes it's just random stuff. I lately and like late last year, I got a lot of inspiration from like the country music scene.
Nice.
With like I don't know if you guys have heard of cowboy pillows. It's this shirt that was like going viral, and it all said was cowboy pillows, and I was like, huh, that's interesting. So then I start going from there, and I think the country music merchandise scene, not specifically the artists, but the like the fans that are making the merch, they're doing a really good job at just making creative merch, because that's another I would say category of merch where it's a lot of male-based merch.
Yeah,
you have a lot of like the cowboys and the grays and the blues and the horses and stuff like that. And not to say that, women don't like that stuff, but we want to see the pinks. We want to see the reds, the cute font, the cowgirl hats, the boots, etc. And I feel like with, a lot of the artists that are coming up now, as well as like Beyonce's Renaissance, a lot of people are really diving into that cowboy side of things, that cowgirl side of things, and realizing that it's not just for the men. Like, there's cute stuff that you can incorporate for women. So I would say country music, and honestly just stuff that catches my eye. Like, sometimes I'll just be walking around the mall, or I'll hear something and I'm like, that sounds interesting. Like, I think I could do something with that, and I'll just write it down, and might come back to it, might not. I've also drawn inspiration from wrestling as well. There's been stuff in the past where I'm like, I could definitely, use that as an inspiration to make something that is a little bit more girlier, a little bit more fun, different colors. But with that, you also have to be careful because, you have the trademark, the copyright. So I'm very careful about, making sure whatever I put out is like non-copyright, no one owns it. Because the last thing you want to get is a cease and desist in the mail.
Right.
So I really try.
We've heard that AEW has been sending out the C&Ds lately too. So
yeah.
They've been hitting the artists.
I've had artists. I've had my cousin has had issues with people stealing her art, so she's been on the other side of that, and that happens a lot also. And so that's why I am very, very like when I buy from someone, I make sure it's like your store and your thing,
right?
because people just love to steal art from regular artists.
They do.
And unfortunately, I assume I don't want to
AI
like be, but I myself don't have a legal team that Tony Khan has, so I can't really go after anybody over my artwork if it were stolen.
Right. Yeah. And I know that there was a situation with a particular wrestler who was not happy with one of the merchandise that you were selling. That we don't have to name names because I don't want to draw any attention. But so in the situation, is that A, the first time that's happened, and B, is the only thing that you can do is just take it down?
That was the first time I've ever had that happen. I've had wrestlers buy merch from me. I've had wrestlers wear my merch. And that was the first time I had ever had anyone come to me and basically, in that demeanor, basically say, I don't want my name on your merch. And that was something that was interesting to me, both as a fan of the person as well as a business owner, because I felt like the situation could have been handled a little bit differently. I'm all for,
media,
yes, they did take it to social media. They actually put it on social media before they came to me. So, in my opinion,
that's the shittiest way to go.
Yeah. So in my opinion, I feel like everything can be handled privately, especially if you see that
professionally.
Professionally. If you see somebody this is a design that they do and they've chosen you, I would think you would feel elated that somebody is making merch for you specifically for that demographic that may not like the merch that you sell, or if you sell merch at all, because that person wasn't selling merch at the time. But
there's a major blind spot with that for people that I will never understand. Like, I don't understand people who leave money on the table. I just do not understand them.
But like I said, I understand, as a performer, wanting to make that money. I understand that. But I think there is a way to handle it. I think it comes just being respectful to people and just respectful to your fans. Because like I said, at the end of the day, I was a fan of the person. And with that experience, I'm not a fan anymore. So
no, and every time I see that person, I always say no bad bitches for, and then that person's name.
Okay, so I'm just going to be honest.
That's what I associate him with now. That's what I think of when every time I see him. That's what I think of. And I was like, now you've just made. That's what I associate you with now. Not what you do in the ring, but how you treated a woman who was trying to do something cool for your fan base. Yeah. And you were rude about it and you didn't handle it professionally. And so it's just like, it tells me a lot that I need to know about you, and I don't want to support you. So
my inner Mike Gilbert is making me want to out this person and destroy them, just so you know. Because sometimes I think that people should be held accountable to their actions. And I walk the line between platforming a jerk and actually calling someone out for being an unprofessional POS, because that's not the right way to handle anything. You're not like you don't.
So the tweets are still up. I actually did address it. I did explain, because I did have a couple orders that people did place for the shirt that had already been fulfilled. It had already been shipped out. And I guess word had got back to that wrestler that I did fulfill those orders, and that led to another post after the fact. So it was 2 posts that had went up. But like I said, it was a learning lesson. I'm very appreciative of the wrestlers that I've made merch for that, always will retweet it. Daniel Garcia is one that he will retweet, if you tag him. Willow, Ricky, like there are a handful of people. Who else? Brian Myers. Like there are a bunch of people in other different companies who have, really love the shirts. They've even asked the people to get shirts with their names on it. So I know that other people know the impact of having those shirts, and they feel good to have fans, rock that name. And, especially if the fans don't buy merch from the, the typical stores. So like I said, learning lesson, life goes on.
Right. That's I'm glad that you see it that way, because that's exactly it. Everything is just teachable moment.
Nikki saw the tweets too, and she said she's a hater of this person now too. She said,
we can talk about it off there, because again, I don't want to.
It wasn't a big loss.
It's just unfortunate, because especially in a business like wrestling, it's very difficult to get your name out there.
Have fun with like the wrestlers they like. Like it's not like none of the things that you put out is malicious or any like.
No, they're very celebratory. That's what I like about them, actually.
Yeah.
I kind of that's what I like about sort of the entire attitude of your website, your podcast, your merch. Is I like that it's more of an homage than anything. It feels fun. And I like I said, I'm right there with you on the black shirts. And I have a good friend who does retro gaming art, and he also does stuff where he does merch like that. And so he and I have over time, I've been like, can you put that design on a skirt? Can you put that design on a dress? And he actually did that for me. And I wore the dress to our friend's wedding this past fall.
Amazing.
But it was great because he was like, it opened up the idea that I could do that. And so now he sells that stuff on his.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, and it's because it's all funded by, that's a member funded. That's One Red Club. The guy who did the cool dude who did our Powerbombshells there in the corner. He also runs, it's called One Red Club. And you guys would like, I think you two would have a lot to talk about and you'd have a lot of fun talking because same ideas. It's just kind of crisscrossing all these things. It's like, where I was like, he was like, I'm going to print, and then I had him print me out a pair of, the air show's in town this week.
I heard
that. I was like, what's going on over there?
Usually it's a siren or a train. I'm near a siren, I'm near a train, but now apparently, because the Air National Guard base, Selfridge, is about 25 miles from here, we're going to have jet planes too. I live in Silent Hill is our joke. So that's a carryover. But yeah, I'm really like, that's really fun. I want to hear more about other stuff that Lo does though.
Yeah, I was gonna, if you have a question, go ahead. Cause I had some questions, but go.
I'm going to let you ask your questions because you're really good at questions. And if you don't ask the question that I had in my mind, because Sam is the question girl.
So you mentioned actually when we were talking that you've been a wrestling fan since you were 9 years old. So how did you get into wrestling?
So I actually stumbled upon wrestling. I was at my grandma's house and I was flipping through the channels and I came across John Cena on the Spanish channel. I don't speak Spanish. And I just was intrigued. I kept watching and, I saw the women and I saw a couple other wrestlers and I was like, this is interesting. I'd never seen anything like that before. And then I watched it the next week and the week after that. And then I was like, I know this comes on in English. So I found it on USA Network. And then I just started watching from there. I started watching SmackDown. At that time, I think ECW was just starting to come back. So I just started watching. And, at that time, there weren't a lot of Black women. So it was a little bit difficult for me to really get into the women's side of wrestling. I really loved Victoria. I really loved Melina. Those were my two favorites when I first started watching wrestling. And then, as time progressed, I loved Alicia Fox, loved the Bella Twins in it when they first started with the whole twin magic thing. Michelle McCool, I absolutely loved her as well. But, we saw so many women from different places, but we weren't seeing enough diversity for me. I ended up taking a little break from wrestling like into high school, early college, and then got back into it when I was I think a sophomore in college, if I remember correctly. So Wrestling Wind Down actually started, it was me and one of my college friends. We had known each other since the first year of college. We both were from Las Vegas, and we had actually had an assignment the first year that I was in college, and we got to know each other. It was like an assignment where you write about somebody. We both went to school for journalism. So we remained in contact. We still followed each other. And I remember specifically one night I was on Twitter and she was tweeting about Monday Night Raw. And I was like, you like wrestling? And she was like, oh yeah, like my sister and I watch. And I was like, I haven't seen like someone that I know like personally talk about wrestling before. And at that time I was trying to get back into it, kind of see what was going on. And me and her would touch base about wrestling from time to time. And then she started bringing up the idea of podcasts. Now, this was around the time where like Call Her Daddy was really just starting. So that had a lot of notoriety. And, there were a couple others, but there weren't a lot of female-led podcasts. So I did my research. I started looking into wrestling podcasts and I saw Those Wrestling Girls. And I think that was the only female-led podcast that I saw. all the rest of them were guys. And I was like, oh my God, like we need some representation. So,
Sure.
we started thinking and we were like, okay, we're going to do the podcast, but we want to have like a niche. Like we want to talk about something other than wrestling. We want to add something else in. And my friend was a beer drinker and I'm like, I don't drink beer. Like, I don't. And I was like, what about wine? And I still have the text message where it just came to me, wrestling wine down, thinking about SmackDown, taking Smack out, putting wine in. I was like, that's perfect. So from there, that was November of 2018. So we went from 2018 to April of 2019. We took all that time to get everything together. I'm a planner. Like I said, I went to school for journalism, so I wanted everything to be as perfect as possible. So that's marketing pictures, that's getting the social media stuff together, that's filming episodes, everything that you need to be successful. That's what we did in that time period. And then we launched in April of 2019 and the rest is history. So my co-host she moved to Seattle about a year after we started. She kind of fizzled out of wrestling, so she stepped away, and then I just took over the brand. And like I said, the merch side of things kind of started I would say about 2 years ago, really starting to dive in, but it really, I would say, took off late beginning of last year.
Yeah, that actually answered the next question I was going to ask, was how did you evolve from podcasting into merch? And it's been something that like your merch is, I mean, maybe it's also the people I follow on Twitter, but I see your merch all the time, which I think is incredible. And I love seeing that. And it's kind of taken on a life of its own. Yeah. And if there was anybody that you could make merch for, is there somebody in particular that you would love to just make some, even if it's not like not necessarily a t-shirt, but just any type of merch? Is there somebody you'd like to do that for?
I have the easiest time making merch for Ricky Starks. I don't know what it is. But I actually had made a shirt when I went to a AEW show in New Orleans earlier this year. And this was a design that I had like for 2 years just sitting there. And I kept playing with it and I'm like, I don't know how I want to do this. And the design ended up being pink. It was pink and black. But when I first started it was like blue. It had clouds. It was completely different from what I had. And I sat on it and I was like, how can I do this? So I turned it into the Starkey Baby World Tour shirt, which it had Starkey Baby World Tour. And then on the back, I had every significant match that he's had in AEW so far. So it had the date and then the location. And that was a 1-of-1. I'm never printing that again. I might print the Starkey Baby World Tour again, but I am never printing that shirt again. That was something that, well, I offered it to him as well, obviously. But that was something that I hold close to my heart because it was something that I had never done before. I love the concept of like tour shirts. I wear those on my spare time, but you never see it in wrestling. And I think especially
just saying that last night to my husband. I was literally saying how great it was when you would go and get that special shirt from the concert that you only got at the concert, that you only got at the show. That's so funny.
The difficult thing about the tour shirt too is, obviously I'm not a fan of using people's likenesses. I think that's when you kind of overstep a little bit. So with that design, I used a shadow of him doing his pose. Now you can't do that for everyone because not everyone has a pose. So like, I think Willow would be another one that would be perfect for a tour shirt, but she doesn't really have a pose. So I kind of have an idea if I wanted to do that for her. I think she's another one that it's really easy to make merch for. Yeah. In my opinion, I feel like the people that, I like personally watching, so like Ricky and Willow, it's easy because it's I really watch them and, I know how their moveset is. I've met them multiple times. So it's like, I know how to incorporate stuff into the design that is them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Definitely. Yep. I think it makes it more, not necessarily authentic, but you can tell that it comes from a place that you're not just like, oh, I'll do this because I see that this is the popular wrestler right now. Like, but it feels like it's more, you can feel that there's more, I guess, passion into it and that it feels like it's coming from a place of honoring them as opposed
Yeah.
to let me just put something out there to make some money because Willow and Ricky Starks are super popular. Like it feels
Right.
like I think that you can, and I feel like that. I mean, maybe it's just because I follow you and so I see the things that you talk about. So maybe that's part of it too, is that I can see that. But I feel like most people can kind of see like your merch and be like, you know, this is like I can tell that this person is a fan of what they're doing. They're not just
Right.
following a trend or something like that, which is really, really cool. And my sister said, she said, I saw a girl wearing a Bad Bitches for Ricky Starks shirt at Revolution. She said, I should have said something to her, but she was walking by and I didn't want to shout at her.
I had a good friend who designed some merch for a wrestler, and it was very similar. His experience was the same, was when they sat down and actually talked, and it was like, what do you want out of this? And so, I mean, that's a little bit, it's a step above, but like where you're going is like you're in the wheelhouse, like you're in the right place for that sort of like. And I think it's cool that you've been able to actually speak with some of the wrestlers and really like that they're excited about it. So what is it like when you see one of your shirts in the wild? Like, what is that? I mean, you make them, you send them out, you know, people are buying them, but, and I mean, and Sam's obviously wearing one right now, but like, what's it like the first time you go to a wrestling show and see someone wearing a piece of your merch that you made? Like, is that something you've experienced? And
so I will say one thing, going back to something you said previously.
Yeah.
So I actually have designed merch with a wrestler before. So it's actually still on Jake Something's merch store on Pro Wrestling Tees, but I had designed something for him a couple years ago. This was before I even made my own merch, and it's on a pink shirt. I would love to redo it for him because I didn't know he was printing it on a pink shirt. I thought he was printing it on a black shirt. So every time I look at it, I'm like, oh, I wish I could have done that a little bit better. But it's based on the saying that Paul Heyman had for a while. I'm a Paul Heyman guy. And it was something that me and him kind of went back and forth on in tweets. And I was like, let's just draw something up and send it to him. I sent it to him, and he just put it up, you know, and obviously I'm credited and stuff like that. But that was a cool experience because that was really the first time that I had made something like that. I love Jake Something too. He's a very kind guy.
Over here too.
But it was such an amazing experience because, you know, he could have easily just been like, hey, okay, thanks for making this for me, you know, but he was like, oh my God, I absolutely love this. Like, can I put it up? And just a very, you know, nice experience to have. And then from there, that's when I kind of was like, let me kind of, you know, start doing my own thing. So the first shirt I actually made was the Wine 316 shirt. And then I know I said the Wardlow shirt. The Wardlow shirt, I would say, was the one that kind of gained more attention. That was the first shirt I would say that actually was based on someone that's still wrestling. The Wine 316 was obviously like a Stone Cold Steve Austin homage. Sure. But to answer your question, so yes, I've seen my designs. I don't remember the first time I ever saw one of them out. I don't remember. I know I've seen them a lot lately, which I'm very grateful for. Every single time I get so anxious. I'm like, oh my God, they have my shirt on. And usually I'm with Iridian. So I'm like, oh my God, Iridian, they have this shirt on. I'm like, I have to take a picture with them. I get so excited. I remember when I was at the Ring of Honor show in not Boston, in Philly for WrestleMania, I saw someone from across the arena wearing one of my Black Wrestling Queen shirt. And honestly, the only reason I could probably tell was because it wasn't a black shirt. It was a yellow shirt and it had the names on it. And I was like,
yeah, that's
oh my God,
really
that's
awesome.
my shirt. Thank you so much. I was like, oh my God, that's my shirt. And then when we were leaving, we're walking up the stairs and I turn around and there's a girl in my shirt. And I was like, I love your shirt. And I don't think at first she realized who I was because she kind of looked and she was like, oh my God. And I didn't want to startle her or anything. So I walked off and Iridian was like, she went up to her friend and told her, oh my God, that's Lo from Wrestling Wine Down. I'm like, that was so sweet. But I didn't want to, she seemed very nervous when I said something. So I just kind of backed off a little bit. But,
yeah,
every single time I see someone in my shirt, I'm very grateful. Obviously Wrestling Wine Down is all me. I, do the podcast. Everything is all me. The designs, everything is all me. So seeing someone in it, it's like, you're representing my hard work. So it really means a lot. And it warms my heart every single time.
It's very cool. Yeah, and I was watching your vlog from, I think it was Double or Nothing, and you were like and you were walking in a mall and you saw somebody was in a Bad Bitches shirt, and she had just bought the Young Bucks shoes, and they had her show the shoes, which was really cool. That's such a cool thing, just like walking in the mall and there's somebody wearing your, and on top of that, they wore that shirt to go meet the Young Bucks while they were buying Young Bucks shoes. Like they had your merch on, which I think is a really cool thing to see. That's awesome. I was gonna ask you,
Sam, thank you for introducing me to Lo. She needed to be my friend, and we just didn't know it yet.
Yeah, exactly. You're welcome.
she's very much a part of what the people I love. You fit right in with all of us.
You do.
Welcome to the family. An honorary broad.
Yes, definitely. You are an honorary broad. So I was watching 100%. Some of the vlogs that you made, and I was gonna ask, do you have a preference between vlogging and podcasting? Do you prefer one over the other, or is it just two different creative outlets for you?
So it's two different creative outlets. So I'm honestly just starting to really get into vlogs. Iridian does, in my opinion, the best vlogs. I don't know how she does it, but she really is cohesive with it. I'm the type where I'm like, I'll take a clip for 7 seconds and then I'll piece everything together. She'll voice over. She gets in there. She is very passionate about it. Mm-hmm. I'm more of let me show you kind of what I saw and then in bits and pieces, and then I'll insert some voiceovers. But, the great thing about vlogs is, I usually am recording stuff anyway when I go to show, so I can just use that footage. But I think for me, the challenging thing is remembering to record when I'm not at the show. So I remember, for instance, when I went to Collision in February, I was going to do a vlog with my friend Rachel is a very new wrestling fan. I just got her into wrestling. Rachel? So yes, Twitterless Rachel. So she doesn't know a lot about wrestling, but she's very into it. So we went to that show and I literally forgot to record. Actually, my phone died, but I forgot to record. So I had a 13-second clip. That was the vlog for Collision. I had nothing else, which was fine. I still had a great time. We had an amazing time. But podcasting for me is different because when I do podcasting, I really feel like I'm using the skills that I learned when I was in my undergrad. I wasn't doing video editing and stuff like that a lot when I was in undergrad, but I was doing a lot of audio production. So when I was in college, I actually had my own radio show, and I was talking about hip hop and R&B and stuff like that. So I gained skills from that experience, as well as some of the classes I took that I still incorporate in, editing the podcast, reaching out to guests, knowing what questions to ask and stuff like that. But in terms of, vlogging, I've really had to study and look at other vlogs and see what I like and what I don't like, and then kind of incorporate my own spin on it as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I've never done vlogs before, but I can imagine that that's a different thought process. Because typically with a podcast, obviously you have, not that you would have topics for what you're going to cover, but if you're going to Collision or Double or Nothing, then you kind of have everything right there where you don't have to do so it is a different, it's looking at wrestling. It's almost like looking at wrestling in a different way, because you are not, obviously with us, we do weekly. So we're what did we talk about this week? Where with a podcast, a vlog rather, you've got, and it's your experience, and you got you got to your bagels and stuff like that, which was really cool to see what you guys were eating, and then going to the butterfly reserve, which was, I had no idea Vegas had one of those, which is, and it was really cool. So it was really cool to see, and I think you get to know somebody in a different way when you see them out and about interacting with other people versus something like this, which I think is really, so I think that's a really cool thing. And then before Mel has a question, I think for you, I was going to read Brad's comment. He said, Lo is now an honorary broad, while Mel and Sam are now honorary bad bitches, and bad bitches for Powerbombshells. I think I need that shirt now. I think you do too.
Now, first of all, don't go around making us bad bitches without Lo's permission. That's her thing. Okay.
This is true. True.
I appreciate the sentiment, believe me, but that's But also, I would totally buy that. F out of that. But I like the other stuff too. I really like, it was a lot of fun. Like I said, uploading some of these, and because Sam's been telling me about it forever and she's worn her merch forever. And I finally, it was like, okay, this is making me sit down and listen to the podcast. It's making me go through the store. And I really appreciate it. And again, having someone else, a couple of other friends who have done similar or are doing the same thing as you in the same and other realms. It's like, I love you people. I love you. And especially with the so for me, because I see a lot of people using AI generated art right now, and it's and that's the one, I don't care if I'm changing your mind or not. That's the one thing that's like, other than an education, I'm going to die on that hill. Don't do that. Hire artists, hire real people with real thoughts in their head who can make real decisions. Like, I love that the wrestlers that are still like working with people that are still, I love that that's still a thing. I love that they still value that. I've talked to wrestlers and people in the business who still value that. They don't want, it's coming and there's nothing we can do about it. But supporting people like you who are original artists doing original work is the only way that we're going to like push the AI thing off and remind people why it's so important to have, look at all the stuff you've just said to us about all the people that you talked about. And AI doesn't know all that stuff.
Right.
You plug it in and it comes out and it's great. And it's like, ooh, that looks so great. And it's like, does it? Does it really?
Do you want to pop up some of her other merch designs?
Sure, yes. This was one of my favorites, actually. So here, I'm going to show this just because it's so me.
Oh, yes.
That's like, that's what I would buy. That's 100% the kind of, I am very minimalist. I love that sort of thing. And also people are like, no, I'm just trying to read your shirt. And it's like, it's cool, man. I don't have a problem. See what else. This one was not very big. I'm really sorry. So
it's okay. So that one is our Hot Girls Watch Wrestling shirt. I think Mariah May has Hot Girl Graps now, so I'm like, okay, the Hot Girls are here. But that one dropped last year.
There we go.
Yeah, so that one dropped last year. The one before that is the Real Wrestling Fan Shit shirt. That one is inspired by Megan Thee Stallion Real Hot Girl shit.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
I love it.
I loved it. I was like, this is wonderful. I think those are the ones.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's what I had because we had showed right here. Let me flip back to the beginning real quick so that everyone can see some of the originals. I'm going back. Yay.
And there's one, this shirt, there's a variation of it.
Yes, I was going to
say. Daddy, I love indie wrestling.
Yes.
Which I think Nikki said somewhere in the comments that she wants that one too.
And there's the Bad Bitches Love Wrestling one, which I like a lot. And I think good on you for this was the Ricky Starks one. That was when I saw that, I almost literally just bought it for my friend because I know he would wear it and love it. And it's just perfect for him. And then of course, like I said, so yeah, I'm very it's super, super cool. Sam always introduces me to the best stuff. So now I just got more best stuff.
There you go. Do you have a collection, or besides the Sarky Baby World Tour shirt, do you have a favorite collection or favorite piece that you've made?
Sam, the hard-hitting question.
I would say probably the Hot Girls Watch Wrestling shirt. I think that one was actually inspired by the Amanda Show, The Girls Room, the segment that used to come on. So that one was cool because I used to watch the Amanda Show when I was a little girl, and to kind of put that flair on it, like the groovy with the flowers and the pink. I just really like that, and you're able to really pair it with anything, which is with a lot of the shirts, but with that one especially, you can dress it up, you could dress it down, you could do a pink skirt, you could do camo pants, you could do black pants, you could do shorts. It's just so versatile. And also with these designs, what I like as well is that's kind of the point of them. I feel like some of the designs that you see in the regular stores, you only compare it with certain things, right? You pair it with some jeans, you might be able to pair it with some black pants, but the colors don't mesh together well, especially when it's some of those greens that they're the only ones with that color code.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
oh my gosh.
I like to make stuff where it's you can pair it with other stuff, and especially some of those designs the Real Wrestling Fan shit, or even the bad bitches shirts, like you can wear those outside of wrestling events. And that's also something that I look at when I design as well. Like, if I wanted to, could I wear this to Target, or could I wear this to the mall?
You could totally wear
you know, could I wear it outside of a wrestling event and people still be like, oh, that's cool. And, you know, I think about some of the most iconic wrestling shirts, like the NWO shirt, or some of the other ones that they have those timeless designs that you don't necessarily have to wear to a wrestling show. You could wear it outside of that. Now, I will say some of those Roman Reigns shirts, like they Acknowledge Me, and some of those weird ones that WWE has made, it's hard to wear those out. You get strange looks. So that's very important as well when I'm designing.
That's interesting, because our friends from the Boom and the Dynamite show have had the conversation ongoing about wrestling shirts they will wear in public. And how most wrestling shirts, even as men, they won't wear them because they're like, I can't wear that to a family gathering. I can't wear that. Am I going to wear something that has a guy?
Wear Scissor Me Daddy ass.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That was like, that was what brought it up, as a matter of fact. And I was saying yesterday that I would totally wear the chin up, tits out, watch for the shoe shirt. But when we went to look, there are no good ones. And they never, the watch for the shoe part is like teeny weeny. And I'm like, and they're all black, of course, but there's only about 2 of them. And I was like, that's a bummer. But it, like you're saying, it's just, I think that I love that. I mean, you're in this is my thing, Sam.
It is. So I'm glad that
she's going to be like, well, that didn't take long. I get paid under 50.
There you go. See,
I might be able to get it in time for the.
When are you opening your customs again? Yeah, soon, right?
My customs will be in the fall, so I just had some clothes. Yes, so I just had some clothes a couple weeks ago.
Customs, that's right.
Yeah,
you said that earlier.
Mine is a custom. My Canadian destroyers.
Does everyone understand the concept of this? Should we explain it to people?
I can explain it. So the custom orders are names or factions or moves, etc., that I don't sell regularly. So those are, they're not one of one. I have had questions about that. They're not one of one. There are, you know, multiples. I think of like Kenny, Matt Taven is another one that has had multiples, but these are designs that I'm never going to put on my merch store. If I do, I will go to the person first and ask them like, hey, I think this will sell really well. Like, is it okay if I sell your custom? I've only done that once and the person has been fine with it. But other than that, the idea of a custom is this is a name, this is a faction, etc., that I'm not going to sell regularly. No offense to the wrestler. It's just I am very particular with who I want to sell full time. And I know other people have other interests or wrestlers that they might want on a shirt. So that's why I open those up. And I do work with the people individually if the name is, you know, trademarked or whatever. Typically, we can kind of get away with like either the first name or the last name. If it's everything is trademarked, then we'll have to, you know, obviously choose another name. But I've done probably close to 200 customs. I've, you know, had very happy people, and, you know, I see them all over the place, and, you know, I'm just very grateful.
That's incredible. I go to a lot of Renaissance festivals, and I know a lot of vendors. So I know, and that's the reason I wanted to make sure that people understand is that when person's doing a custom anything, it's extra. It's a lot of extra stuff. And so it's great to get in on those times of the year. I have a lot of vendors that only make their crochet for a certain time, or they only drop things for a specific period of time. And then that's it. That's the only time you're going to get the thing. And but I like that concept, and I think it makes people follow, especially something like, it's easy to follow you because you do a bunch of stuff. You're not just doing the merch, you're doing all the other stuff surrounding it. So
yeah, and make sure that you're following. So that's another reason. Make sure that you're following Lo.
She's got it on the thingy, but
on Twitter and on Instagram, so that
Twitter
you know
and Instagram and big letters.
So you know when the customs are coming, because you're definitely going to want. And she does. You only open up like a certain amount of customs at a time, right?
Yeah, so I usually would do between 30 to 50. It just depends on, you know, how last time did, you know, the amount of people that are asking for them beforehand. That's kind of how I gauge how I'm going to do it, as well as my availability. If I'm a little bit more busier than normal, I might decrease the amount that I do.
Have you had
people?
Have you come across anything yet where you're just like, I am not putting that on a shirt, or I am not putting that wrestler's name on a shirt? Like if it's somebody questionable or problematic or anything like that?
I have not had anyone ask for anyone problematic, thankfully.
I figured you
have
hadn't, but I was just like,
I have had someone ask for someone that is deceased though, and that is something that I won't do. I just feel like out of respect for, you know, someone that has passed on, I don't really feel
Sure.
comfortable
Thank
doing
you.
that.
That makes sense.
But no, I haven't had anyone ask for anyone problematic. If that were to come up, I probably would decline. You know, even though, you know, I am selling merch, you know, I like to, you know, sell merch, obviously. At the end of the day, it comes down to morals. I would rather, you know, be morally correct in something rather than, you know, making some money. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, and you don't want your brand represented with like, oh, she went ahead, this person's been kind of questionable, and she went ahead and made merch with that. That might make people be like, oh, I don't know how I feel about that. Then, you know, you don't want them to be like, well, then I don't want to, even though it's a custom, she agreed to that custom. And so, you know, I don't want to, you know, that might make people second guess on top of that. So
I love that just because I think that it's so difficult to find ethical consumption these days. It's
and you know,
on top of just I love supporting independent stuff as much as I possibly can and homegrown companies, just because I've been one and I love them. But on top of that is like knowing that makes it. I appreciate that as a consumer, as an end user. I'm like, yes, I know that everything about this was good, and it came from somebody that likes what I like and understands the world and is a human being and did it with their brain, and I love that. I mean,
I think for me it comes from that journalism background, because when you go to journalism school, they teach you to seek the truth and report it. I took a whole class about journalism ethics, so you know, I still lean on that. Even though I'm not technically making merchandise is not journalism, you should still follow the same type of ethics. You should have ethics when you're making merch. So that's why I'm very much like, if I, you know, I'm uncomfortable with if someone requests a name of someone that's problematic or, you know, someone that's deceased, I will decline, because, you know, you might want that shirt, but at the end of the day, like, it's Wrestling Wine Down that is producing that shirt. I'm a real person. You know, I have feelings and emotions and thoughts as well. And if it's something that I'm not, you know, in agreement with personally, I'm not going to just do it just so that you can have your shirt or just so I can make money. Like, it's not about that.
Yeah.
There's plenty of that out there. If they can find that word, go make it yourself.
Yeah.
Press on letters for Michaels are like 20 cents a pack, people.
Right. And I know you're probably
this quality, I guarantee it.
No, definitely not. And I know we're probably getting close to the time where you need to head out. So I wanted to ask, and if Mel has any other questions, of course, but since you are, you know, you obviously do podcasting and vlogging, and you've done some media type of things. What do you hope for with women in wrestling media and in content creation, not particularly women of color and things like that? What would you like to see, you know, moving forward?
I would like to see more women in the space. I think, you know, every couple weeks, every couple months, I see a new podcast with women of color, and it makes me excited to follow them and to share their work and stuff like that. I want to see more of it, you know, and content creators as well. I get on TikTok every day and I see a new Black woman who is either going to a wrestling show or finding out about wrestling or watching wrestling. And it's exciting. You know, I remember when I kind of first start diving back into wrestling, there weren't a lot of Black women. And now there's just a plethora, and they have, you know, they're from all over the place. They have different walks of life. Like, it's just so exciting. But I want Black women in this field to really continue pushing. You know what I mean? I know sometimes it is, it's not the easiest, and there's things that you might, you know, feel like it aren't fair, or you don't understand why things are happening. But I think hard work prevails. If you keep on working hard, if you're a genuine person, if you're a nice person, people are going to pick up on that. If you're just doing it just to, you know, do it, and you're not passionate about it, people pick up on that as well. I think people's characters really stand out. And, you know, I think of a lot of Black women in this space. You know, I think about like, in Cat We Trust, I think about Stephanie Hardy, Shay Sawyer, and a handful of other women who they just continue to just grind and grind and grind. And that doesn't go unnoticed. You know, I know sometimes it can be disheartening because you might not be in a media room, or you might not have the same opportunities as someone with, you know, more followers than you do, but people are still paying attention to your work. And I think that passion that they have, those three specifically, it shows. Like, they produce stuff that they are passionate about, and that makes you want to continue following them as well. So
Yeah.
I just really want Black women to just keep pushing and to realize that people are watching, people are noticing that, you know, you're consistent, you put out good content, you know, you're passionate, you're a nice person. People realize it.
For sure. Definitely. Mel, do you have anything else for
No, I
Lo?
think that actually you did cover everything. I got my seeing the merch in the wild shirt, because that's always, I have artist friends, so we get to talk about stuff like that. So
it's very cool.
Sometimes
Yes.
it's a
And so,
lot.
Lo, do you have anything that you want to plug or to tell the people, or anything else that we didn't cover? Is there anything you want to mention?
So first of all, thank you guys so much for having me. If you guys want to go look at the merch, it's shop.wrestlingwinedownlv.com. As I mentioned, customs will open in the fall. That announcement will go up on Twitter and Instagram, which is at WWDCAST. We're posting episodes bi-weekly for the podcast. So we just released one last week with Cornell Gunter. He was formerly with WWE 2K. Now he's working with WWE Games. He has a very interesting story. He also worked for WWE NXT for a while. And we're just going to have really interesting guests on. My goal is to, you know, showcase people that are doing great things both inside and outside of the ring, and showing that, hey, you know, we have this large community all over the place of people just doing amazing things. We need to spotlight them. So
cool. Very cool. All right. Well, unless you have anything else, we will let you go. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming. We would love to have you back. Yeah, come back anytime, please. We would love to have you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. It was really great to meet you, Lo.
Great to meet you.
Have a good rest of your Sunday.
Bye.
Thanks for being on. Honorary broad.
Yes, honorary bad bitches.
Yes.
All right. Woohoo! Have a good
We
Bye,
did
guys.
it.
We made it.
That's so cool. I loved having her on. So thank you guys for
you
being in the chat.
And thank you, Sam, for pushing that.
You're welcome. Yeah, she was tweeting a few months ago. She was like, "Hey, I want to do some podcasts." I was like, "I have to." I was like, "I know that usually Mel and I try to talk about things, but I'm like, I'm just gonna tell her to come on, and then I will tell Mel after the fact."
I trust you. I think at this point, you know, we have a weird thing going on, so I feel like you're not going to do me wrong.
No, yeah, and
just like she said, I mean, it's our show. Like, this is our show, and we want to make sure we have the best, like, the people that support the things that we value on there. And so she's perfect for us. Right. I mean,
definitely.
If I were going to argue with you, I'd kind of be a doofus. You'd be like, no, you're not who I thought you were.
I thought it was really cool too, because like I followed Lo on Twitter for probably a year or two, and so we've talked back and forth a little bit, but that was the first time like I've actually got to have a conversation with her, which I thought was really cool. And so I'm really glad that we were able to get her, because she was only doing like a few, like she was just opening up her schedule, and she was like, I can't do the 16th, and then I was like, tell me what day works for you and I will put you on. It's like, and you can stay for as long as you want, or you can stay for whatever your time is. So I was just like, I wanted to get that. And I really enjoyed talking to her. It was a really great conversation. And I like supporting, I think you and I are the same. We like supporting independent businesses, small businesses, women-owned businesses. We're also a Black-owned business. So you're supporting, you know, all kinds of things, just supporting her.
Well, and it's a wrestling thing.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, it's a win. Although we didn't get to play the music.
We did not get to play, but
we're so excited to talk to her.
Yes, we will play because it is
because Nikki reminded us what day it was. So
69, you saved me.
I don't know if you can hear it. I don't know how good the
we can play it again if we need.
Let's just turn it up. I hope so. I hope that turns it up.
69 me, Don. 69, you saved me.
I think it turned it up. Did you guys all hear it? Wait. So happy.
69 me, Don. 69, you saved me.
All right, there. I got it for you 3 times, Nikki. So hopefully it came through on the audio. Happy 6-9, everybody. Nice day.
Nikki said she got us.
Thank you for reminding Sam to do that.
Yes, thank you, David.
Yes, she was a great guest, David. Thank you for hanging out.
Yes, thank you. definitely. And so Brad says happy Bill and Ted's Day.
Yep.
69.
69.
We'll get it all
dudes.
covered.
I think I have that one too. Wait. Do I? Yes, I do. Wait.
69 dudes.
See? I'm just wonderful. This is what I do with my time, folks.
Right? Nikki said it never gets old.
It really doesn't.
No. It's always there when we need it, especially on nice day. So and then you had the other one too. So we had the Bill and Ted representation for today as well, which was nice.
So, well, I could never, honestly, I can never bring myself to take those down because you never know.
No. Yeah, you really, especially with the things that we cover. So you never know.
I mean, sometimes you need to lighten the mood. Sometimes you need
right.
Sometimes Kenny Omega just really needs to be saved. I mean,
he does. Apparently, he needs to be saved from his body because, bless his heart, he's having the roughest time.
As someone who has very disagreeable intestines, I completely empathize with Kenny, and I wish him the best because I don't understand guts, and I don't understand why they need to be. Why do we need like 300 miles of freaking guts?
Right? I don't understand.
What the hell?
It should not take this long. That's what his body says. So his body's like, get rid of this. I don't need it.
Like, do I really need to carry around enough like tissue that I can wrap it around the earth twice or whatever? Like, what is the deal here? I mean, it needs to process and get in my bloodstream and whatever. It shouldn't take like 30 miles.
Yeah, who needs all that?
I obviously am. I'm in jest here a little bit, but the idea here is that like gut stuff sucks, and I just want Kenny to get better. And thank you. Exactly, they are so rude.
Yes,
they really mess everything up.
They really do.
I mean, teeth are stupid and intestines are stupid. That's what we've generally decided.
And sometimes people need robot backs. We have also learned.
Yes. I don't know. What a world. What world are we living in? But anyway, so some wrestling happened this week.
Yeah, so let's see here what we've got. So we'll start with MJF. MJF returned to Dynamite this week. Which and they opened the show with that, right? I believe so. Yes. So that was interesting. Do you have, before I give my thoughts, do you have any thoughts on MJF's return, his promo, anything about MJF in general?
I mean, I know that everybody, like, there's a lot, like, MJF is a very popular wrestler and people love his promos and all of these things. And it's great, but it does feel like it's going back to, I don't need the MJF show back.
Right.
I don't need the shenanigans. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, because you've hung a lantern on his like use of low-hanging fruit, like body shaming and name calling and just very disrespect. Like, and look, I get it. You're a heel and you're cutting a heel promo, but you're supposed to be like, you're actually a smarter, better wrestler than this. Like, your history has shown you to be a smarter, better wrestler than to have to sit around and cut promos that are, there's a lot. I feel like it's like everyone just wants to hear MJF talk and they don't really care what he's saying. And
right.
So, it's great. It was good for the ratings. I get it. That's great. So awesome. Yay.
Yeah.
But I still think that he could be cleverer.
Me too.
With the way that he approaches, he's a smart dude. Like, he's a really smart dude.
Right. And I think that's why one of the reasons I have not just because of that, because like I can't stand the low hanging fruit. It feels very lazy. It feels like, and I, like you said, I know that he's better than that. And I don't dislike MJF. Like, he's not my favorite, but I don't dislike him. But I dislike the low hanging fruit. I dislike the body shaming. I dislike I can't understand the wrestler with a foreign accent when you can clearly understand everything Rush said. Like, I don't like the xenophobia type of stuff. And I know why he does it. It's cheap pill heat. Like, I get it. I've watched wrestling.
But
long
it
enough,
antagonizes the what chance, which, as I talked about yesterday on another show, the what chance need to die forever. Everywhere. I don't care. It's 2024.
Yeah. Well,
if
and
you
they're
can't figure it out, roll
really,
it back.
Like, they were doing it to Piper Niven.
I know, that's
cutting a
why
promo.
it came up.
Yeah, Piper cut a promo on Friday, and it was a really great promo, and they were wanting her because she has.
I don't know if you were live on Saturday. I was listening, and it was this with Roosh, and both Piper Niven and Roosh were being whatted, and it was like, you are so Bush League if you are saying what.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and Lyric
out of my wrestling.
Actually, I think it was Lyric talked about it, but there was another account. I think it was what is it, DDT Women? Is that the name of their? I don't know why I just blanked on them because I was thinking about them yesterday. But they both have pointed out that these around the time that there's going to be like the Forbidden Door stuff, that's when like the racist fans like to come out and they like to say things about the Japanese wrestlers. And then kind of we see that with CMLL even coming in.
Well, that's going to be worse because you've got Americans especially have such an anti-Latinx vibe. I mean, especially with what's politically happening. This is real, like, and it's scary. And when you're messing around like that, like MJF has been walking around like, watch out for the anti-Semitism. And then
Nikki said the same thing. She was like, and rightfully so, he should point that out. But then you're going to turn around and be like, I can't understand your accent when you can clearly understand everything.
It's no different. It's a xenophobic racist. And so it comes from the same place of hate and ignorance.
Right. And yeah, so and Lyric's point was like, so then you have like, we already see this in the fan base where there's saying like, who's this? And they're like, they're being racist towards, Japanese and Mexican talent that are coming in. And then you have MJF, who was one of the most popular wrestlers in the company, going on TV and kind of doing what the fans are doing. And he's perpetuating that idea of, I don't want to wrestle these Japanese wrestlers from New Japan. I don't want to wrestle these Mexicans. Like, and that's what it comes off as. And it's so frustrating.
When you're a Long Island boy who's as white and like, and your whole gimmick is I'm better than you and you know it.
Right.
But again, we had a huge issue last year where people were talking about this roll of quarters thing and the state of the world. Right. And now we're in just as bad of a situation on both fronts. We're both represented people here in the world. So the last thing you should be doing.
Right.
And especially anywhere close, like, I mean, they were in the mid, like in Iowa and, I mean, I don't know how like some of Colorado is. And some people tend to think that places that seem blue are, but they really aren't as blue as you think they are. I lived out west.
Yeah.
The cities might be blue, but they're big states.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a lot of people in them. And it's just wrong. It doesn't. And like now that you're making the Forbidden Door connection, I didn't even think about that part of it. And that does actually kind of, you're one of the faces of this company. You cannot be doing that leading into a big giant crossover that's now looking like it's going to have
and then
multitudes of diversity on it.
And then also, like, you have his promo at Double or Nothing was 2 weeks ago, and he apologized for how the latter half of his run went, and part of it was because it was the very WWE sports entertainment centric type of shit that we didn't like. But then you come out and cut a sports entertainment-esque promo like you always do, and you're going right back into the things that people did not like about your last run and why they were sick of you in the first place. And you're already doing it 2 weeks in from you coming back. And I was like, and it's really frustrating because, like you said, MJF is smart. He's a very smart person. He is a smart wrestler. We've seen it. We've heard him cut promo. When he cuts promos that are not going for the low-hanging things, they're good promos. Like, sometimes he is a person, I think one of the things that is to his detriment is he is very long-winded. It takes him a while to get to the point, and I've seen people there like, just get to the point already. So the longer it feels like the longer he talks, the worse it gets, or he just starts falling back in these old habits. But he was, and going back to even some of the promos that he would cut against CM Punk, like CM Punk would easily just like get under his skin, and then you could see him like trying to get back on equal footing, and then he would just dig the hole deeper and deeper and deeper. And it was like, somebody has got to talk to him about cutting more concise promos and just getting to your point. And I don't have a problem with wrestlers writing their own promos. I feel like they're more authentic that way, and I prefer them. But like, just get to your, like, before you come out, be like, okay, what are my key points here? Like, what do I need to get to? And
bullet
like,
points.
Yeah. And then shorten it down like 5 minutes, because you're eating at other wrestlers. You're taking away time from them. And I know part of it, they're like, okay, we're going to give MJF 20 minutes. But when you do, and of course, Roosh came out and, they did their thing and solidified some of their stuff. But like, it took a while to get there, and then it let room for him to hit all the low-hanging fruit on the way to it. And so by the time it's done and you're over with, you're like, I don't want to see this anymore. Like, I'm tired. Like, I don't want to see more of the same. Like, I was hoping, like, I didn't have any really expectations for MJF coming back, but especially because he came back a little bit earlier than I expected him to. But if this is more of the same, then like, I don't really care for it. Like, this doesn't, like, just please stop so I can get to the matches, because like, that's what I really want to see. It's the wrestling. And Brad did say here that, the only thing that he liked about the MJF was that he actually did put over Roosh, which yes, he did. He did it in a kind of a roundabout way in the beginning, but he did put it over. And then he tore him down again, and he got the what chance out of here, which I appreciate. That I like, MJF is good at that type.
He did try. I mean, he did try and shut those people up. Fortunately,
He did,
I mean,
which I do appreciate.
But I think exactly to your point is that more than that, I think they just give this guy the mic and let him run wild. And but they don't do that with everybody else doesn't have that. And I mean, not that everybody, and let's be real. I mean, there's going to be tiering. They're obviously going to be the higher level, but whatever. But like, I go back to even listening to Moxley, both in interviews and from his book, where he talks about, cutting promos and how they wanted him in WWE to all this crazy stuff. And he was like, no, just give me, what's the story? What do I need to get over? What do I need to hit on? And what do I need? And so that, and I feel like, almost, not that like, wrestlers are inclined to do such things, but I mean, I almost feel like he would benefit a great deal by talking to Mox about how to like do exactly what he does at Mox speed.
Yeah, right. Right.
In MJF's version, obviously, because it's MJF's
of course, like, I don't want you to take away MJF, because
I think that he can be just as good of a talker and not. And I also think, and he's made the point before, and you just made me think about it because of the processing thing, and because I did. He said that he has EDD, so if he gets lost, he's going to have a processing issue, because that's how the neurons start to work.
I totally get that,
and so it might behoove him to have a bullet pointed thing where that's where a boss would step in and say, "Hey, buddy." Maybe
even a producer, whoever's producing that segment, can be like, "Hey, this was really good. Why don't we try?" And I know he's at a certain level, so maybe some producers are like, well, he's MJF and he's just going to
do what he wants.
He's just going to do whatever he wants. But it wouldn't, like, some of these producers it would not hurt them to be like, hey, this was a really great thing. This stuff was really good. This stuff was not as great. Maybe try this next time.
Yeah.
And maybe they just don't feel comfortable because MJF is MJF, and you don't tell. I mean, he's a star and he's one of the top people. And I get you do want to put him on TV because he brings in ratings. Like, I'm not going to deny that.
Of course.
And again, like, I like MJF. He's not my favorite, but I don't dislike him. I dislike some of the things that he does. But like, and
he's super valuable. I get his value. I see it. I know his value to our product. I believe
back
me.
Into the same things that made people dislike him at the end of last year.
Yeah, it was huge. He came in during Double or Nothing and said, I'm done with that shit. And then he came on to Wednesday and cut kind of basically the same shit. I mean,
right, exactly. And then I was trying to decide if I wanted to bring this up here now because we are talking about this topic later, but it kind of goes into this promo thing of, so I guess we'll just bring it up now. So obviously the rumor is Ricochet, which I'll touch on it now and then we'll circle back later because I've got some other information. But so the rumor is that Ricochet has told WWE he's not coming back. He's not re-signing his contract His contract is up this summer. Whether this summer is June or August is not clear. But somebody wrote a tweet that was basically what MJF's promo would be for Ricochet. And it was like, hey, Ricochet, I'm sorry, Ricochet. And like, it was just like hitting all of his formula basically. And somebody was like, have we gotten to the point where with MJF that somebody can tweet out a promo that sounds like something exactly like MJF would say? And yes, he is. And a lot of wrestlers rely on a formula. I mean, clearly that's what, I mean, obviously The Rock is like a prime example of that.
Moxley has a formula.
Yeah, most wrestlers do. You hit, which that's not the point, but his promos are so like they hit the lower hanging fruit. They hit the racism. They hit, all of these things. And so MJF apparently, so I saw that tweet last night. Someone sent it to a Slack. Well, MJF, I saw a screenshot. Yeah. And Brad said the same thing. MJF replied to that tweet and said bookmarked. So it just goes to show
that
you
actually is,
that's not a good thing.
I shouldn't be able to basically plug in your points to ChatGPT and get a promo.
Right.
I mean, thankfully that was a human being, but if it's that easy for a human being, I wouldn't want to, frankly, plug that into ChatGPT because it might come out even worse. But it's not working for me. And he said he wasn't going to do it, and then he came back and cut a giant promo, and the first thing he did was do it. And then again, we're finally making inroads where CMLL and AAA might be able to work together.
Right.
Ooh, maybe. But
then you have one of the number
one.
If
Ricochet, do you think Ricochet will leave WWE?
Yes.
You do
100%.
think so?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You don't think he's going to opt for money? You think he's going to go? Now, do you think he will go to AEW or Japan?
Yes. I think my initial reaction to this news, and I will say, so PWI Insider is the one who initially reported, but multiple people have also heard the same thing, including Fightful. Dave Meltzer turns around and says, this isn't true. So now the dirt sheet, not dirt sheets, because not everybody's dirt sheet. So now the wrestling media are fighting, apparently.
Okay, I know what you meant.
They're fighting amongst themselves, apparently. There is supposed to be a select coming today with more information. I have told my friend who has select that if it comes while the show is on to please at me so I can read it on air. I could see Ricochet going to Japan some. I don't see him signing a full-time contract because obviously we know Japan is in a recession. That's the whole reason they couldn't.
Oh no, I didn't think of it.
Ospreay.
Like yeah.
You could even go back to Aussie Open. They weren't offering them the money that Aussie Open wanted, and so Tony Khan did offer them that. So if he goes, it would be a per appearance deal. I could see him potentially going over there and doing a few shows, and then I think if I could see him coming to AEW by the end of the year. He could still set up, and even if he comes to AEW at the end of the year, he could still even set up something for Wrestle Kingdom. I could also see him being in G1 next year. I don't think it would be this, because G1 is, which we'll talk about because they released the dates, like G1 is in like a month. So I don't think and you got to prepare for that. So I do think
brackets.
Yeah. And so I do think I could see him doing the G1 next year. So I could see him going to Japan, kind of just familiarizing himself with the non-WWE way, because they do have a very
that was going to be part of things.
But I think AEW is the better fit for his style. I also, he's obviously Will Ospreay. I joked last night when I saw that the rumor, I was like, Will Ospreay is going to go pick him up personally.
He was just talking. Will Ospreay was like, oh, not
2 weeks ago.
Was it? I feel like
2 weeks ago.
Okay, it was. I was like, it couldn't have been that long ago. I think
it was. I want to say it was right before Double or Nothing. I think
it was like the anniversary of their match or something, and he was talking about it.
Yeah, and he was like, he deserves better, because at the time, he was the inaugural Speed champion. For those of you who do not know, WWE has a contract with Twitter, and they put on 3-minute matches on Twitter only. It's called Speed because the matches are 3 minutes or less. And they had a tournament, and like Cedric Alexander was in the tournament. Like they had some like bigger names in there, and then they put the title on Ricochet. And so Ospreay was like, this is what you're doing with him. You're putting him on Twitter
in 30 seconds.
last week. So Ricochet he only held that title for a few weeks. Ricochet has already dropped that title. He dropped it to Andrade like this week. So Andrade now has this title.
They chronically cannot book this dude.
No, they can't. No.
They have like a chronic illness for booking. They cannot. They have just the whole company has a blind spot for booking this dude.
Yeah. So
I mean, he was like, the only reason I worry about it is because like he would definitely need to work on promos because he was only okay. And even in Lucha Underground,
people, right.
Not that it matters. He could just wrestle and who cares? He doesn't need to talk.
Well, I mean, and somebody I always go back to with promos is Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy has never been great at cutting promos.
You're right.
He's an incredible wrestler.
But
in this day and age, I think people do want the full package. Like they want somebody who's really good in the ring and somebody who's good on the microphone. And so I do think that they could work with him there, hopefully. And that, definitely could be a blind spot for him. And that could be something that's problematic. Maybe you partner him with somebody who can.
Say, maybe you get him a manager or valet or something that works
right.
with him.
So perhaps you put him with somebody who can cut promos, and maybe that's how they do that. But so I think his style's better fit there. Obviously, Ospreay. Then you have last night Swerve was tweeting, and Swerve tweeted, and it was clearly directed right at Ricochet, and it was like, let me see if I don't know if I bookmarked it. I know I saved it, and then he tweeted it twice, or tweeted two things. Let me see if I can find it really quick. He said, he said, you come here, I'm giving you hell. And the picture is a photo of him looking directly into the camera. Then he responded with, I'm not joking. Ricochet and Swerve had one of the biggest feuds in Lucha Underground.
They must have been indie rivals.
And Ricochet was Prince Puma. And it was funny because Friday night I was actually talking to one of my editors at Wrestling Inc. because I was telling him I didn't have access to Lucha Underground until after it was over with, and I've only seen a handful of episodes, and they were the episodes with Alberto Del Rio, and that turned me off real quick because I didn't want to see him. But I didn't have access to that channel, and so, but I had, and he was like, I can't believe you've never seen this, and somehow we got on the subject of Killshot, and he was like, his biggest feud was with Prince Puma. And then the very next day, this rumor comes out that he's not re-signing. And so Swerve, he's the first wrestler I saw that, I mean, other people may have, but I was writing last night. So he was the first person I saw, but he was like, see what happens if you come here. So like they've got the built-in storyline with that. They're clearly going to redo Will Ospreay versus Ricochet 2 from their big Japan match. He obviously did PWG, so he's good friends with the Young Bucks. Like Tony obviously is somebody who watched PWG shows. Like, so I think he's going to be brought into, I think they will make his signing a big deal. I think that he will probably initially get put into some big spots. Then what happens after that? That's obviously the big question. Does he fall right back down to the mid card where he is in WWE? It's possible. And WWE has booked him a little better as of recently, but I think that's because his contract is coming up. But he went on a streak. I believe somebody said last night he went on a streak from 2020 to 2021 where he lost like insane, like 30 consecutive matches or something insane like that. Like they weren't booking him well. And then now that his contract is like coming due, they're like, we'll start booking, because they did the same thing. It's like they did the same thing with Shinsuke. They were trying to recruit Okada, and they started booking Shinsuke in really good spots. They were putting him against Cody Rhodes and all this stuff. And then Okada was like, I'm going to AEW. And they just dropped everything that they were doing with Shinsuke. Like they quit. So they know, and like, I get it. And they did the same thing with Becky. They put a title on her, trying to get her to resign. Natty's contract is about to come up. Chad Gable's contract is up like really, so like I think within like a week or two. And so he is in the middle of a big storyline. He had the heel turn. He has a match at Clash at the Castle. I do see Chad Gable resigning. However, AEW apparently has interest in him, but why wouldn't you have interest in Chad
Of
Gable? And it's the same
course,
thing
of
with
course.
Penta. Penta's contract apparently is coming up, and they say WWE has interest.
Yeah,
Well,
I've
why
heard that.
wouldn't you? Like, why?
Well,
like
you have to. I mean, you have to.
like, yeah, why wouldn't you have interest in Chad Gable, and why wouldn't they have interest in Penta? Like,
Penta.
of course they have. If they're not watching wrestling, then like clearly they're gonna have interest in these guys, and whether they re-sign or not. And one of my editors at Daily DDT has made the point over and over again, because he's somebody who covers MMA. He was like, Endeavor is watch what's going to happen with these contracts. We're out of the place where people are going to be signing monster contracts. They're going to let the contracts expire, and they're going to be like, this is your deal, either this or nothing.
Ari Emanuel's in charge now. It's not Vince McMahon. People
right.
need to understand. That's a great point that your editor is making, because this guy, they should look at his history and the way that he's downsized and the way that he's done like things in the past. It's like Garrett talks about it in our Discord. We have a channel where we talk about nerdy, businessy, weird, sportsy stuff. Right. And but we've talked about that very kind of thing where that it's like, this is not whose hand. It's not, the old guard is gone. This is a real business now being run by a real scary businessman. Like that guy.
Yeah, I mean, and there is probably the chance of exceptions, like where, you know, Becky Lynch could come back and maybe she does end up signing the best contract, the biggest contract a woman has ever signed in WWE. Like there's that possibility, but I think, and you know, the wrestlers were doing the very smart thing of, hey, like Randy Orton is the example that we use a lot. Randy Orton was like, hey, if I come here, what are you going to offer me? And then he turned around and he told WWE, okay, AEW is going to offer me this. What are you going to offer me? Which is very smart, especially in all employees should do that. But
every single person should have that.
But especially in wrestling, where there are two big companies like that.
This is the closest thing you'll ever get to collective bargaining in wrestling right here.
Right.
It's the fact that there's competition at all for the wrestlers to go look for other work.
Yeah, so which is really smart, and I think they should,
of course, get paid as our Jeff Hawkins.
Like it's very smart. And maybe Ricochet, maybe there is the possibility that this is what he's doing. I don't think so. I feel like Ricochet knows he's reached his limit. He's reached his ceiling in WWE. Like he's never gonna get any higher than what he is right now. Could he end up in the mid-card thing in AEW? Sure. He just might make more money at it. And I think initially they will treat him very well. They'll make a big deal about his signing. Of course, who knows what happens, you know, because we all know that they have a problem of pushing people and then not knowing what to do with them, and then they just fall by the wayside, so I understand that fear as well, and I definitely could see that being an issue. But I think he'll have the matches. He'll have a lot of really good matches there. What I think, and he's in his, what is he? I think he's in his mid-30s. So like
38. We figured it out yesterday.
Okay, so this is probably his last shot at a big money deal, just because of how the nature of wrestling. So if he's wanting to make a lot of money, this is probably his only chance to do it. So I think that, and that may not be his end game. Maybe maybe money has nothing to do with it. Maybe he just wants new matches. Maybe he wants to feel respected. Maybe he wants to do something completely different. You know, he's met his fiance in WWE. Like maybe he feels like WWE has served its purpose and it's time for him to go. But if money is a factor, then I feel like if he's gonna go, it's now, because if he stays with WWE, he's gonna sign probably a 3 to 5 year contract.
His end of a career, basically.
Right.
Contract.
Yes, exactly. What AJ Styles has done.
Right.
And Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn likely have signed some of their last deals, or at least their last long-term deals. Maybe they re-sign for 1 or 2 years after that, depending on how long they keep going, which I don't fault anybody for doing that, especially in the wrestling business, especially when you've these people who worked in the indies for, 15 years.
Oh yeah.
And now they're finally getting, consistent money, and they're making a good living and things like that. And they're at the tail end of their careers. Like, do what's best for you. Like, I totally get that. So
I guess why I was wondering about Ricochet a little, because I guess, Tony can offer him good money. But I wondered how much money WWE was going to. And I think he would stay with them because of the money, or if he wants to go wrestle.
Right. And also Endeavor is running things now. as far as contracts go, and that's a very different process than it was before. And maybe he's just like, I don't like this. I'm going to get trapped here. I'm going to get trapped to, what if I get trapped here and I go on an early winning streak and then go right back to a losing streak, which of course, the same thing could happen.
Or they bench me, or they release me, or they do any number of things.
Sure.
WWE and TKO are notorious for doing to people.
Right. The contract situations are definitely changing there. And I think that's going to be a factor moving forward for a lot of wrestlers, especially these wrestlers who were in their late 30s and early 40s. Like you've got Natty, who is in her I don't believe she's 40 yet. I think she's late 30s. Maybe she is in her early 40s. But so you've got Chad Gable, who is 38 years old. I didn't realize Chad Gable was 38 years old.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Ricochet might be 36 and he's 38, but they're both,
Yeah. And so these are probably, and I think they are doing 5-year deals now instead of 3-year deals. So that's carrying you into your early 40s. And you have to think about is this what I want? Is this what I want to spend the next 5 years of my career? And so there's obviously a lot of factors besides money. And so
home life, work life, the fact that you would only be working 1 day a week, that kind of thing. So
right, too
obvious. We can tell the difference between companies, I think, at this point.
Sure, right. So Brad says a Japan run to get the WWE sync off of him would be awesome.
That's what I think too, Brad.
TNA if the same company was at the end of 2023, but they're a bit of a shit show. Brad, exactly. I had mentioned, because somebody said that about TNA last night, and I was like, if this was Scott D'Amore's TNA from January,
he could just go there and get warmed up and he'd be fine.
Because I could see then that's my thing with
Premiere
Mustafa.
and
could you imagine
something?
Mustafa Ali stepped into this situation going into TNA. They were getting all this momentum, and they were going back to TNA. They were bringing in Will Ospreay. They were bringing in Okada. They were doing all of these things that were really exciting. Yeah. And then they fired Scott D'Amore, and Motor City left. Deanna left. All these people left, and now you're just looking around like, what did I sign up for? And I don't know how long. I don't think Mustafa has ever been reported how long that deal is. I don't see him staying past a year there. But so that's a gamble you have to take if you go to TNA. Yeah, you can do the per appearance contracts and stuff, and you can probably have some really cool matches. But they're drawing
over there now.
And they don't really seem to know what they're doing. They don't.
Well, the people in charge from it sounds like, do not have that much interest in wrestling.
Right. And they are undoing everything Scott D'Amore did.
Doesn't it sound like it's like TNA, it's happening again? It's basically the same thing as with Dixie Carter and with the people that didn't know what they were doing running it, and they were just having it on their TV to have it on their TV and imploded it. It feels like that's going that same similar direction.
Right.
Again.
And they're firing everybody under Scott D'Amore right now. The only person there is Gail Kim, and Mike Gilbert was talking about it on Twitter. He was saying that, I thought that he was I would think that Gail is the only one who's 100% safe, but I thought that about Scott D'Amore. So
right.
Nothing is guaranteed there anymore. And so it's not as viable of an option as maybe for certain levels of wrestler, but I think somebody like a Ricochet, I don't know. Sure, maybe he goes in and he wrestles for because they film 4 episodes at a time. So sure, maybe he goes to TNA and does a couple he does 3 sets of tapings or something and wrestles Mustafa for so perhaps there's that. And then he goes to Japan for a little bit. And some, obviously there are the Matt Cardonas who, they run their own schedule. They go to GCW. They do they're making a shit ton of money on the indies that they weren't doing, 5 years ago. So, there is that route for Ricochet. And I think Ricochet could be somebody who's successful at, doing something like that. But I just feel like my gut instinct is that he will go to AEW at some point, whether it's right away or it's after he does a run in Japan and then signs with them, because they could bring him in and do. You've got. Let's see. What do we have? Some big. There's a handful of bigger Japanese pay-per-views coming up, I think, in the next few months.
Well, there's Capital Collision. There's
right. So you got the strong shows. Too.
Well, and that might be a good place for him to use,
because he could go wrestle like Haramu, Despy, Ishimori.
Maybe he can have a match with, I don't know, Shingo or
He could do so. He could like. I would love to see him. Like if he went to Japan, like I wouldn't mind seeing some of that stuff.
Well,
and
it'd be good because he could again. Like Brad said it perfectly. Is not that I mean quite, but I mean the WWE stink. But like to get it out of you, we've seen it with a lot of wrestlers who've come from WWE and been in that system for a long time. Like they need time to. Moxley was ready to get out. He is a unique case. That guy was busting at the seams to get out of there. There was no way in hell he was going back there, regardless of what was going on. It sounds like from what he said. Yeah, but like, I don't know. He might. Yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought there.
No, it's okay.
It might behoove him to get a little bit of like good wrestling matches in him.
Yeah. Right.
And they can use that
he
outlet.
Can even do some indie stuff.
Although we're having like, I mean, and he won't get treated like maybe as bad. I mean, obviously the Ricochet thing will happen with MJF. Right. But beyond that, there's actually other like wrestlers that are.
And so Brad does point out, and we kind of touched on this, that his problem is signing is where does he get slotted? I'm a fan, but AEW is filled with guys that have similar talent that could be used as spot. I'd rather they sign more women or tag teams. Yeah. Like Brad, you make
and use the people they have more.
You make a perfect point, and I agree with that. And I do think that they will make a big deal about it, Ricochet in the beginning, but then how long until he falls right back down into the mid card type of stuff where he's like not, that's definitely a concern. And Nikki said Nikki and I have said Nikki said this to me a lot, that I don't want everybody from WWE to go to AEW, but there's also people I want to see him wrestle in AEW, which I agree with. And Nikki also, she does that. She says that I often fuss about AEW focusing on former WWE talent too heavily. I love some of those talents, but sometimes it's like, damn, can we focus on others here? Right, which is the and that goes
plenty
back
of homegrown talent. We've got Orange Cassidy, we've got Jeff. I mean, Jeff Curry's coming back right now. We've obviously got to see what goes on there, but there's people in AEW that need to be used.
Yeah, and then David pointed out, I think it was David that pointed out up here that when is Camille coming?
I think you ask that every
You're gonna
week.
find a spot for Ricochet, but when are you gonna find a spot for Camille?
When Megan Bain is coming, when she comes.
Now I don't know. There's rumors that
they'll be here together.
There's rumors now that Megan Bain might not be coming.
Okay, well, good.
I don't know if that's true. That may just be. That might just be speculation because we haven't seen her, but I have heard that maybe her deal is gonna she's just gonna let it expire and just not come because she's doing a lot of stuff in GCW now. So maybe they're letting her because she's done Stardom stuff. Maybe they're letting her just do some stuff in GCW until they're ready for her. And then
they actually have women's storylines going on right now. So
which is nice.
It's crazy.
Even if we have a minute, I saw it's like, hell yeah, we're getting 2 women's matches on Collision. I was like, Chris Statlander says I'm a Renegade. She's gonna beat her in 3 minutes. She beat her in 1 minute and 35 seconds. I mean, I know why. I get the story. I know why she's angry. She's pissed off because she's a heel now, and I get why. But I was just like, oh, here we go. But I don't believe. Let me check over here. I don't think I have. No, the select for Ricochet has not come through yet. So if it comes through while we're still on air, I will read it. But in the meantime, we will move on to still kind of the same thing.
Same thing.
And it will take us actually back to MJF.
and Forbidden Door.
And Forbidden Door. So we have a Forbidden Door card that is building and apparently did not write those matches down. So this will be where we will crowdsource the chat. Oh, Brad said it came through and he's reading it now. Okay, I don't want to.
All right.
Yeah, it's on. The person has Patreon.
Well, we've got Will Ospreay and Kyle O'Reilly, right? I'm sorry, no, Swerve and Will Ospreay.
Yes, Swerve.
Sorry, that was last night.
Forbidden Door.
That's happening. Mariah May Tony Storm versus
Kawa. And Mariah had. I've already saved it. They've made a really great poster for Forbidden Door, and I saved it yesterday. So when we do our Forbidden Door pre-show, we can add that poster because I love the way that they did it. It's Mariah May is wearing heart-shaped sunglasses, and Tony is in one, and Mina's in the other one, and it's
Nice.
like I forget the tagline. It's really funny, and I thought it was really cool the way they did it. But it was
Okay,
funny.
but doesn't this mean Mariah May is winning the Owen?
Yes, that's
Okay.
it has to.
I mean, when that happened last night, did you not say, okay, so she's winning the Owen then?
Yeah, well, and that's been like we mentioned it last week too, that like we didn't know who the participants were, but assuming Mariah was in it, that's who I assumed was winning it, and they made it
anyway.
Like Willow and Chris are also entering the Owen. That keeps their story going. One of them will probably cost the other. I think was probably where that will go, and that
because I mean we're kind of assuming that Tony is going to come out of Forbidden Door still the champion,
right?
But
and I
think that's a fair assumption at the moment. You never know
that. Yeah, the assumption is, and so, and we've talked about, I feel like Mariah, my guess, I still kind of stand by this. Maybe it will change a little bit. Maybe the timeline will change. I feel like Mariah will turn on Tony. At first, I thought at Forbidden Door because she's going to do something to me. Well, and also you have Wednesday night where Mariah loses to Saraya, which I get why. I don't think Saraya was the person to lose to when she's she barely wrestles, and Mariah was on this winning streak. But I know the story was Tony was watching from commentary and did nothing to help her.
Mm-hmm.
She sat there and watched her lose.
Get her ass.
She didn't. Where Mariah, if it was Mariah, does everything she can do to help. Like she's considered throwing in she tried to stop. She considered throwing in the towel. Like, so we see these little things. So my original thought process was that Mariah turns on her at Forbidden Door, and this starts their story towards Wembley, where Mariah is the heel and Tony is the babyface. We already see that Tony has become the babyface. She's so over. But now I'm wondering, do they wait until the Owen? Because last night, Tony said, I will be there with you. Because she said, well, first of all, she said, nobody looked out. I had nobody looking out for me. I will look out for you. I demand that you are in the Owen, and I will be with you every step of the way. So then I was like, well, did they hold off the heel turn until after the Owen, after she wins? Like, so now I'm kind of, my timeline is a little off. I do still think Mariah will be the one to turn heel, especially because, and I know I haven't seen All About Eve, but that's the story. They're kind of keeping with that theory. So, and she wants her spot like that. She's coming for it. And so, it makes sense that she'll be the heel. So we have that. And when they announced when they put out the poster the other day for Tony versus Mina, Mariah tweeted Tony Khan and said, I want to be behind both women on the poster. And he said, you got it. And they re-released the poster. And Mariah is behind both women on the poster now. And I can't remember who it was. I don't remember. Was it somebody was saying that she should run back and forth between both corners during the match? Like, come help Tony for a little bit and then like come around to to Mina's side of things and just go back and forth because she's so torn on what to do. So I think that a match will be fun. And then before we move to the next match, Brad says that Sean Ross Sapp confirms PW Insider's report that plans are in place to write him off TV. I did see that last night. Dropping the Speed title was done due to him saying he's leaving. Obviously, he's still under contract. No one can confirm any AEW deal is in place or in talks with him. Yes, because that's contract tampering. And I think nobody has figured out if summer is June, July, or August. So it could be. So I would assume, since they've already pulled the title off of him and they're working on ending contracts with it or ending storylines with him, he's probably.
I saw that writing him off TV tweet last night late when I.
Yeah, so did I.
I took it with a grain of salt because I don't, until I look harder, I don't,
Right. So I would assume maybe the end of this month, early next month, if they're depending on what the storylines and how they're wrapping up. Clash at the Castle.
Yeah, that is easy for you to say.
Yeah, right. Is next weekend.
Okay.
He does not currently, if I remember correctly, he does not have a match next week. So he probably won't figure into, I don't know that he'll figure into anything there. So, and then I don't remember what the July pay-per-view is. So we'll see about how. So even if he comes, it could be, does he come before Wembley? Does he return? Oh yes. Does he return? All Out would be a good.
That.
If he, I can't believe you did either because I sure did.
know it's because they were talking about it yesterday
every week,
on
and
something
I don't pay
was listening
attention.
to. They were talking about it yesterday on something I was listening to.
There we go. So if he assuming he goes straight to AEW, doesn't go to Japan first, All Out would be a good place for him to, because you need something following Wembley. That would be a good place to debut him. If that's, depending on where he goes after that, maybe he goes to TNA for a little bit. Maybe he shows up. What's their, they have a Bound for Glory is their big pay-per-view in October. TNA is big. So there's always that. If he doesn't, depending on when his contract is up, and if he doesn't go straight to AEW and does some other things first, Bound for Glory is the big TNA pay-per-view. And does New Japan have a big pay-per-view in October too? Or am I thinking
is Battle in the Valley in October? Or is that
no?
December?
That's a show here, and that already happened. That was in.
Okay.
They did that one already. I'm talking about in Japan.
So there's the Philly show. There's a DC show, a Philly show. There's Windy City Ride already happened.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Trying to think of I can't remember.
If you stick around on this channel and
right, I know I keep wanting to say Dominion because it happened this morning. But yeah, so that's focusing on Forbidden Door. We also have Mercedes versus tentatively Mercedes versus Stephanie. The reason is Stephanie is defending her title at Fantasticamania on June 21st, and Tony has already said that if Stephanie loses, then her opponent will be Mercedes' opponent, assuming Mercedes wins her match. I forget which title match it is, but assuming she wins, so they're at least playing into the possibility that either one of them could lose their titles. So I was like, well, I appreciate them doing that. But it appears that it will be Mercedes versus Stephanie for it's the title for title is what they're saying, is what they're calling it now. And so it looks like we're probably getting Mercedes 2 belts.
I mean, they made that belt for her specifically for the New Japan one.
Point that out.
They they are making sure that that that's the facts, is that belt was supposed to be her belt. And
so they made sure real quick.
Universe said, "Ha ha!"
Right,
and we are going to right the universe's wrong at Forbidden Door on June 30th.
Yes, on Long Island. And before I bring up Brad's comment, I will, because we're talking about Stephanie. It appears that we are doing MJF versus Roosh at Forbidden Door.
Yeah.
That they're clearly having a match. Forbidden Door makes the most sense. That is a problematic thing because Stephanie Vacker was a year or two ago. Has it been 2 years? Her former boyfriend was at the time a trios wrestler in CMLL. Quattrero, I believe is how you pronounce it. Forgive me if that's incorrect. She says that he choked her and tried to kill her. Wow. Femicide is a huge problem in Mexico. He's in jail. He just had a court appearance like 2 days ago. I have it bookmarked and I will read to you. Let me see. Okay. So Lucha Blog translated this tweet. Says Quattrero was denied bail at a hearing on Wednesday. Same reasons as when this came up previously. There's a concern that he may still be a threat to his victim, which is Stephanie, prior to trial. A follow-up mentions there's also an investigation to other threats against her. When she came forward with what happened to her, a former girlfriend of his also came forward and said that she too had been abused when she was with him. However, Roosh, Andralisico, and a couple other Mexican wrestlers last year were publicly telling people to go support this man when he was going to court for something, saying that Stephanie was a liar. There has been a rumor that Stephanie is friends with somebody in the police department and she got her friend to screw him over, type of thing. They posted this on their Instagram pages. They got called out for it, so they deleted them. So there is a problem with putting Roosh on the same card as Stephanie because of this, because Roosh has publicly defended her abuser. And when Stephanie was on Dynamite. They did a pre-tape with Roosh that aired. He was not in the building with her. So far from what we've seen, they have not been in the same building together with AEW. However, if this match is made, there is a big concern from a lot of people who are familiar with the situation about Roosh being on the same card as Stephanie, knowing that this is happening. My hope is, at the very, very least, Tony Khan and or Rocky Romero have talked to Stephanie about whatever their plans are for Roosh and be like, are you okay with this? How will this affect you? I don't know that they've done any of this. Of course, none of us know this. I just hope, did they at least give Stephanie a heads up? Hey, Roosh is going to be booked on this card in a really big match. We're pushing him right now. Just so you know, he has a match on the card. Whether they asked her I would hope that they asked her feelings about it, but I'm hoping at least they gave her the heads up so she's not blindsided by Roosh coming out here, cutting this promo on Dynamite and realizing I have a giant title match on this card, and they are putting a man who publicly supported my abuser on this card. And so it's very frustrating to see this happening. Again, I don't know if there's been any talks.
I didn't even know that, and that's even more frustrating.
And you're not. I know a lot of people do not know this story, and I have heard about it.
I mean, I'm not like I'm like totally in on unfortunately on South American, like Central American, whatever, Mexico. But I didn't know any of that.
Yeah,
and that's disconcerting in and of itself.
It is. Yeah. Well, no, completely understandable. And so I've only seen it because I guess people I follow, and I had forgotten some of the stuff. And then I saw somebody bring it up when the pre-tape aired the same night, and they were like, this could be an HR problem for AEW. I wonder if they know about it. But I was thinking, with Rocky, they have to know. Rocky is somebody who is in the know.
He's down there and he knows. He's been He's part of the reason they're having the
right. And at the time of his arrest, he Quattrero was a champion. He was part of a trios champion. So there's no way that Rocky
almost no way that it just doesn't. There's no reasonable way that Rocky couldn't know that this is an issue.
Tony should know, being what he does, but having
I can see the disconnect. I don't excuse it. I can see the disconnect, but that certainly is someone that
absolutely should know. And this is something he should bring to Tony if he has not already.
Dangerous to all the women there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just disconcerting for the person that's the victim of the crime, whatever. That's all other women have to worry about that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
We've got a abuse defender right here, and I mean they're talking about doing mixed tags, and we have a guy
media encouraging people to go support this man,
a guy that tried to choke his lady,
yeah,
while they're trying to promote mixed tag stuff.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
and people already have. I mean, a lot of people, and especially males, have a huge hang up about mixed tag.
And Tony is one of them. Tony Khan does not. He's gone on record and says that he does not like intergender wrestling.
Probably, definitely being on top of this one would be a good idea.
Yeah, because this is an HR problem waiting to happen. I mean, we know HR is for the company. They're going to protect the company. We get that, but you have a situation where a woman has been abused. Not only has she been abused, but to the point where this person, she says, tried to kill her. And you have two people on your roster who have publicly defended this person and basically called her a liar. It's a big issue. I assume. I mean, there's still clearly there's a little bit of time. They could potentially do MJF versus Roosh next week. They could do it the week before, but it appears that they're setting up for Forbidden Door. And I feel like this is where the match is scheduled for. And because it's MJF, it's going to be in a prominent position on the card. This is not going to be your opening match. This is not going to be your second match. This is probably going to be later in the card because it's MJF's return to pay-per-view, first pay-per-view match, which is why I think they're not doing, and this will probably be MJF's first match back altogether, that he's probably not going to have a match between now and Forbidden Door. This will probably be it. Roosh is wrestling on Wednesday. He's in action, so it's probably a squash match against somebody. And so, yeah, that announcement is probably coming sooner rather than later. But it has been a topic that I have seen come up, and I tweeted once I saw, because the other night I was trying to find information about it, and I couldn't really find an update. And I was trying to find the stuff about what Roosh said, and it was there was something on Reddit, but it looked like it had been deleted. But I did find a tweet of somebody talking about it, and she screenshot where it's Roosh's name on Instagram. It's definitely from his Instagram account. And then that came out from Lucha Block, so I tweeted about it because I feel like a lot of people were like you. They just had no idea.
I didn't know that was a thing at all. That's kind of disappointing.
That is the problem. And so, yeah, so this match is probably going to happen at Forbidden Door, and I don't know what they're going to do. I just hope that regardless of what happens, I hope that Stephanie feels believed. I hope she feels safe and protected, and I hope that she can do her job and not have to worry about this person being on the same card as her, let alone being in the same building as her. And I hope that if they are in the same building, that they keep her far, far away from him. and yeah, so that is, I know that this took an unfortunate turn, but it's something that I wanted to talk about because not enough people realize that this is going on. And Stephanie is somebody who,
I mean, that should be talked about. That's
right.
important.
I agree, definitely. And Stephanie is somebody who is a rising star. A lot of people really like her. She's
a lot.
Very good. I had never seen her before Battle in the Valley last year, and I was completely blown away. I was an instant fan. I would love to see more of her in AEW, but it is concerning how that will play out when you have this happening. And so I hope that they will work something out to make her feel safe and to make her feel comfortable and I really just hope they've already talked to her and that she was not blindsided by what happened on Wednesday. I hope that they gave her a heads up beforehand at the very least and be like, hey, Roosh is going to be out here tonight cutting a live promo. It's setting up a match with MJF at Forbidden Door. He's going to be on the same card as you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that is that. And then Brad did say that 2 matches for Forbidden Door were announced today due to the results on Dominion. I have not seen Dominion.
Me either.
I have seen some stuff. I have seen winners of some things.
I actually haven't seen anything, ironically, because I knew to stay off.
I happened to see it. I saw my Twitter was actually not as active about what
Mine
was happening
wasn't either.
But I saw a few things here and there. I do know who won the BOSJ final. I know a couple other victories. I know who won the tag match. And so with the tag match, I won't give away who the winner is, but I will say one of the people who did not win is Hikuleo. Hikuleo's contract is up in June. There have been rumors for months that he's WWE bound to join Tama Tonga and Tongaloa. And today pretty much
sealed it.
Because he and ELP did not win the tag team titles because it was a 4-way match. And so it appears that Hikuleo is on the way out and is WWE bound, which on Friday night SmackDown, they had an anointment ceremony where Solo Sikoa is now until Roman Reigns returns, he is the head of the table.
And he's the de facto leader of the group for now.
He is. Yep. And which he's been acting as leader since since he's been gone, but the call came from Roman Reigns, according to Paul Heyman, and he's like, and so Tama Tonga is now the right hand man. He is Sikoa's right hand man. He is the number 2, and then Tama Tonga is I always forget it. What is it? What is that word they gave him? It's like oh God, I wrote the damn article about it and I still can't remember because I was like, this is such a weird thing to call him. It starts with an I. It's like not incomparable. Like, what is the word? It's some very weird thing. And I'm like, why Why are they calling him this?
Inconceivable.
It is inconceivable. I was like, this is the best thing.
You're like, the name was inconceivable, but that's not what the word.
Yeah, it's so inconceivable. I can't remember what it was, and I literally just wrote the article 3 days ago.
You wanted to forget.
Apparently so. And Nikki was like, I'm sure they're going to say it 5 million times. I was like, probably so.
Probably.
Oh, the infamous. That's what it is. The infamous Tongaloa. And we were like, what makes him like everybody? They're like, what makes him infamous? Why is he's been in WWE for 5 minutes? What is the infamous?
He's so infamous. You don't even know about him.
Yeah. So yeah, there is that. So Hikuleo
Sure.
looks like he's on the way out. I don't know what they're going to do with ELP now. Which they had a nice little thing going, but ELP has really come into his own the last couple of years, and I'm sure that he will bounce back.
He'll be fine. I mean,
Brad says Brad said it was a very good show. It felt like New Japan that we know and love. The 2 matches are title matches, IWGP and New Japan TV titles. I won't spoil it. Watch Cobb versus Ishii, though. It's masterful. I still will watch that match, and I
am going to sit down and watch the whole thing. I just didn't want to start this morning because when I put it on, I just wasn't feeling it, and I wanted to focus. And I knew there was no way I was going to get through it before our show anyway. And I assume
this is a 4-hour, at least a 4-hour.
It's going to be a 4 or 5, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's what I was usually is. So we'll probably.
So I'm going to watch it tomorrow when I can sit and have the quiet and put the wrestling on. And
I'll probably start it. I have got to. This interview that I am transcribing is a long interview, and. Well, I was going to get to it Thursday night, and my internet went down. I had power. My internet went down, and I was like, this is it went out for like 4 hours. So I got to do other like in real life things. Like I did my new moon ritual, colored in my planner.
Good.
Read a physical book.
Personal stuff.
Yeah, read a physical book. Read like 80 pages of it.
Nice.
So, and then then the internet came on, and I was like, okay, well, it's almost bedtime, so I'm definitely not going to transcribe this article. Yeah. But I want to try to get it out this week because said person has a big match coming up, and I would like to get
Sam had an awesome interview.
Yeah, I can't wait for you guys
to stay shut it up about it until she transcribes it.
I love doing interviews, but transcribing them,
I know
it's such a pain. And
and I have to remember, I'm like, shut your mouth.
It's not like it's a giant secret, but I was
I know, but it's better if it comes out on it's your article and your thing, and it's beautiful. And then I support it.
Only a handful of people know who it is. And Mel is one of them. I told her.
Sorry.
Bless you. So I told Mel before the interview took place, and of course Nikki knows, and my mom does. She doesn't know who this person is. She's like, "Oh, great." She's like,
"I'm just so proud of Sam for all of the amazing work that she's been doing, and it just keeps getting better and better." And so this is just another one of those things. So yay!
Yeah, I decided I should do it more often, but I made a list of everybody I've already interviewed this year because thankfully, again, and I've said I'm so thankful to Ashe for giving me the opportunity to talk to so many cool people. Like they don't have to do that, and it's really nice of Darius and Chris Lee. Chris Lee sets up all the interviews for me. And I'm so thankful for the opportunities they give me. And they let me tell their stories and use my platform to especially because some of them are lesser known independent wrestlers. I mean, I've obviously gotten to talk to Kiera Hogan, which is incredible, and I've talked to Sunny Kiss this year, which is also really cool. But I like talking to some of the people that aren't, who are, the 2D Lens and the Rayhan Anteas and the Yayas and stuff like that. And I don't know, hopefully I will be able to do interviews for the show coming up on the 22nd. That's the show with Shelton Benjamin versus Jonathan Gresham in the main event. Tasha Steeles is coming. And so I would like to talk to her because I've interviewed both. So she's wrestling with Kiera against the King Bees. I've interviewed all 3 of them. So I would like to interview Tasha to round it out. But so I was just making the list of the names I got to talk to, and I was like, this is so cool. And I could even technically go back to last October when we had Ruthie on here, which was a really cool thing. And I was like, so it kind of started there because then I got to do the media scrum and got to talk to freaking Aja Kong and Trisha Dora and so it's a really cool thing. And so I'm just really glad that people seem to be into it. So, which is nice. So I, want to provide people with platforms and have good conversations. And so generally those interviews are short. They're like 5 to my interview with Rayhan, it didn't, because we were just having a conversation, it ended up being like 10 minutes. And so the interviews go by fast, but then when you have to transcribe them, it takes forever. So this interview is like 22 minutes long. I'm 4.5 minutes in, including, but I also have background information because I'm setting up like this person had this match. This is what's happening with them. Here, and then like start reading. So I had to like pull in the back because I can't assume that everybody.
It's not as simple as transcribing the actual interview. You have to give context inside of it too.
Yeah, I can't assume that everybody knows who this person is and what this person has been doing. Like, so I have to provide some background stuff. And so I was like, my editor's gonna kill me because it's already at like almost 1,000 words, and I'm 4.5 minutes into the interview. This is gonna be a long interview. We'll just go ahead and tell you that ahead of time. Just maybe pop some popcorn before you read it because it's going to be long. You might have to read it and then come back and pick up where you left off. And
most of these pages, these thingies tell you how long of a read it is now anyway. So
this is true.
I have no idea what they base that off of, though. I'm like, based on whose reading speed?
Right? Yeah. Right, exactly.
What weird computer algorithm gets to decide this BS?
Yes. And Nikki, because the internet went down, Nikki painted and she ended up having Hardy Boys vibe, and that was unintentional.
It happens.
Listen, it's probably the subconscious love of the Hardy Boys that we both share.
It happens.
And it just comes through. But yeah, so there are the 2 matches. I guess I saw one issued. I don't know if because he says the TV titles. I saw somebody issued an open challenge for Forbidden Door. And then I think I know what the IWGP one is. I know who, I did see that too, but we can talk about it next week when we get to Forbidden Door, or whenever we do the pre-show, because that's in just a few weeks. But the Forbidden Door card is filling out nicely. I think it looks like an exciting card. I'm excited for it.
Me too. It's going to be the first one that I'm watching from my house.
That's true. Welcome. # not in Long Island. Long
Island. Yeah. Nah. I think if I do anything, I might go to Chicago for the end of the summer.
I'm probably going to have to wait. I don't know that it will happen this year, but
I do know if it'll happen because I've got a wedding to go to at the end of the year. It's very, and that's how
They just announced last week that Paris is Bumping is coming to Charlotte, and I'm very excited. Brad tagged me in it. Paris is Bumping is a show that Billy Dixon has put on the last, I think this will be the 3rd or 4th one. It combines wrestling and ballroom dancing. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember if I watched both of them or just one of them. And Brad will, I'm sure if he's still here, will chime in. But Brad went, said it was the most fun he's ever had at a wrestling show before. They're doing it
absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, they're doing it in conjunction with Ashe in August, because that Charlotte has their Pride weekend in August, because this is the weekend here that they do it. I think is something they do for Martin Luther King Jr. or something like that. So they've always done it that way. So Pride weekend here is always in August. And so it will be there. So I was like, well, and tickets I think go on sale this week. So I was like, well, I'll be doing that. But I did have a person who I have met through wrestling Twitter and have been on their podcast. They live in Seattle and have said that if anybody was coming to Wrestle Dream, that they would offer a place to stay if needed. So I was like, oh, well, that's good to know.
Seattle. I also have a potential place to stay in Seattle if we ever get to go.
Yeah. So I was like, maybe not. I was like, Wrestle Dream this year probably is not happening, but
not this year. But I do want to I need to get back out there and
I'd love
eat
to go.
Red Mill
I really want to go to Full Gear, because Full Gear is always around my birthday, so that would be a kind of a cool thing. Yeah. There he goes. Brad said, yes, Paris is Bumping is such a party. The perfect show to bring a non-fan to. I took my dad and Kathy to the last one. I actually have a friend of mine and Nikki's that I was telling Nikki that I thought about telling her about it to see. She's not a wrestling fan, but I kind of feel like this is something they may be into. So I was like, I might just say, hey, this is the thing.
That's the kind of thing I would honestly take my sister to. She's not a wrestling fan, but she likes dancing and she likes stuff like that. I think she'd like the presentation. I think even my niece would enjoy it. It's something. Just reading about what Brad was saying and the I'm like, okay, I could see where this could actually be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really excited.
Very
and so, like,
unique
I
idea.
sent it when I sent the tweet to our group. They were like, one of my friends was like, "Oh my god, hell yes!" And they were like, the other, like everybody in the group chat was very excited about Paris's Bump and coming. So, and that is coming here, and we were like, yes. So that'll be interesting, and we'll definitely talk about that more once we find out more about it. Let's see. We already talked about Ricochet. Oh
I
yeah,
just wanted to tell you that Deadlock Pro was coming to
I
Wrestling
saw
Universe,
the
and I'm
tweet.
going to be able to watch it.
Yes,
And I'm very excited. So if you have
Yes.
matches that you need me to catch up on, that you'd like, that
Okay.
suggestions,
Yeah.
because I know that you guys have been following it, but when I saw it, it was like, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't followed it super closely because I have a friend who has it, and sometimes I'll watch it through them. But yes, so if you are a subscriber to Wrestle Universe, Deadlock Pro is coming. Everything will air like on a delay, and they put out what that schedule is. But I think they've already got like 5 shows scheduled. I think a couple of them have already happened, and that'll be like your introduction into it. But they have such a great relationship with DDT Pro because like Andrew Everett has gone over, like he has gone and wrestled in DDT Pro. Bailey and Aki has wrestled there. Emmy was their women's champion for a while. May Segura has been on the card. Like they've brought in a lot of Japanese talent that I think a lot of people on Wrestle Universe would be familiar with. So that is huge for Deadlock to get on.
I'm excited
on that
because
network.
I already love Noah, and I'm really excited about like it's, as we were talking about, it's just more bang for your buck on Wrestle Universe. That thing is like the one that's been worth it to me more.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that.
After President, I believe in President Tanahashi. I believe in his 10-point plan, and I feel good.
Yeah,
I like to hear from Brad that it was a good show today, because that was going to sort of be the litmus test for how things are going to keep going.
Yeah,
and
sounds like
I did, like, even Dave was saying that it's pretty unprecedented for someone to come out and admit, like, hey, we're struggling and we're going to do these things. And by Tana doing that, kind of bought a lot of like goodwill. And
I think so. And it came from Tana,
understands North American wrestling a little bit better than some people. And I mean,
right,
he seems like a boundless, like he wants it to be successful. So I'm like, go Ace.
Right. And you know, it's funny. I sometimes think about this, how Okada has said that he wanted to be the one to like eventually run New Japan, and he wanted to bring it back to the days of Inoki and things like that. And then obviously things have changed since then. And not that he could never go back later on down the road and do whatever his vision is, but then you kind of have Tana stepping in, and Tana is now the one who is like, this is my 10-point plan. It's going to take some time. Like these are not overnight fixes. Give us the time. We hear you. This is what we want to do. And I feel like obviously it means a lot because Tana is the president, but it's Tana. Like if it's not coming from somebody like Okada, then Tana is somebody who has a lot of goodwill with the people. He's universally beloved everywhere. And so I think it means, and I think that Tana means what he says. Like I think Tana, like you said, he sees the North American side of things. Like he sees wrestling in a broader sense because he's had exposure. He's come and he's worked over here. So he sees some things. And so I think that he has a plan in place, and hopefully he's going to work with Ghetto on that. And as far as some of the booking things happen, like he specifically mentioned House of Torture.
Oh, he explicitly said that it was cheating, and that there were times when that made sense, but at this point it's become too much of an issue. And basically
you can't. It's one thing to cheat and bend the rules to win a match, but to cheat just to cheat is.
He literally, in that statement that I mean, the one that I was reading from the Observer, that I think that Dave would get somebody decent. And I also read Chris Sampson's run over it as well. So I feel better. But he basically was saying like, no more. Yeah. Which good.
And so we will, even though we did not watch Dominion. So first of all, we will plug this again, but if you have missed our tweets about it, come back here at 5:30 Eastern PM. If you don't care about spoilers and have not watched it, then please watch it live at 5:30, or watch the show and then come back tomorrow and watch the replay. But speaking of Strong Style, we'll be going live at 5:30 PM Eastern to go over everything that happened at Dominion. And also, we're going to touch on it. G1 has been announced. They've announced the new rules. There's some cool things that they're doing. I have Chris Sampson's tweet right here, which we will go over, but I'm sure that they're going to go over that some. They may wait and go more in depth on their Thursday show, because I think they are doing 2 shows this week. But make sure that you check them out on this very network. And if you are not subscribed, please do. And turn on your bell notifications for all, I think is what you said.
If you click all, it's better, because then you can dismiss the ones you don't want, but you want all of them.
Yes.
But then you'll never miss a show. And that's
this is true.
Really
and there's all
matters.
kinds of stuff on here. We've got the Joy of Wrestling. There's the Dynamite show. Sometimes Garrett, there's Popcorns and Pile Drivers. I think Garrett went live about, there was something he was doing with something WCW related a couple of nights ago. He went with, I think he went live with Draven. So there's always all kinds of cool shit popping up on this channel. There is a WWE specific podcast. Sometimes they do live shows. They did do a live show last week. The Wrap did. They did after NXT, because it was where Jordan Grace had her first match. She has Battleground is today. I don't think that they are doing a live. I don't think they're doing a live show for Battleground.
I don't think so, because of the. But they'll probably review it, because tomorrow is their day, so they'll
so that'll be coming.
Tomorrow.
So if you do, there are WWE people here, so there is the Wrap.
A very excellent WWE show, the Wrap with Keela Cash and Salty Scott.
Yes, they have some. We
love them.
Stuff. We do love them. So. We will, before we get into this bracket, I want to read Brad's comment. He said, if you name drop Kathy to Billy, you won't get any money off tickets, but he'll love it. Billy loves Kathy. Well, I will keep that in mind. And I know her favorite, Darius Carter. He will be here. He and Billy will be wrestling on the 22nd.
There you go.
And continuing their story. But yes, and I was thinking about this earlier, and he's somebody I think of. If you want to see a heel who is very good at being a heel, but doesn't resort to cheap heel heat and low-hanging fruit and racist tropes, go watch Darius Carter. Like, don't straight up steal from him, but like, just go watch him. Go watch what he does.
Watch what he's doing.
Listen to the promos he cuts. Watch how he carries himself. He comes out like, the most heel thing ever is that he comes out to try Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Like, I can't think of anything more badass than that. That is so, like, because Nikki and I have seen Trans-Siberian Orchestra through my job like 3 times, because my boss has worked with them for like 25 years, and he was like helped them get on radio and stuff like that. So they always hook us up with really good tickets. Like, we've had 4th row seats, and they every time I've seen them, we've had floor seats. Like, I think the furthest back we've been is like 11 rows, but like, they are incredible live. And so, when I heard it, he came out and I was like, that's Trans-Siberian Orchestra, right? Like, I'm pretty sure that's what that is. And then I saw somebody talking about it, and I was like, that's incredible. Like, I would have never thought a wrestler would do that, but it makes perfect sense that it's Darius Carter and that he comes out to it, because it just pulls everything together, I think, with his character. But yeah, if you want to look at a good heel, he is a prime example of that. But I will go back to G1 real quick before we get out of here. And yes, Nikki said those talking about TSO shows are amazing. Yes, Nikki and I have gone. I've taken her with me. We've taken our dad before. He enjoyed it. However, I will tell you that if you are a person with PTSD, these shows are probably not for you, just because they have a lot of flashing lights. There is a scene with one of the stories they tell where there are bombs dropping and there's fireworks, and that bothered my dad because we didn't know that was going to happen. And it could be, and that's not something they announce. It's probably not something they think of, but just knowing from experience that if you suffer from PTSD, particularly with loud sounds, fireworks, and flashes, then this is not the show for you. I would skip it. Or just know that going ahead of time that it will happen at some point in the show, and it may be triggering. And so I tell you that. But if you have the opportunity to go see TSO,
and if you have
otherwise,
sensory issues as an epileptic or otherwise.
Yes.
For all that, for PTSD and epilepsy, and anybody who has neurological issues with those things, and say I'm just sensory.
Yeah, you have sensory issues.
Essentially, it's a lot of sensory and visual triggers that you can't.
There are
a ton.
Like, it's an excellent show.
You know, it's really interesting. I wouldn't have thought, but because of the light show and everything else.
And that's what I didn't even think, and I felt bad because like my dad had always I didn't know that he was such a big TSO fan, but he used to do security at different stadiums, and he was saying that they used to do a preview, like they would always show the Trans-Siberian Orchestra like preview that it was coming, and so I was like, oh sweet, next year when they come through, I'm gonna get my dad tickets. So me and my sister and my dad went. And there were some things that made him really uncomfortable. And he was just like, I wish I had. And there's 2 different shows. They swap them out every year. And I don't think it's in both. I mean, the lights are definitely in all the shows.
Of course.
But there's, I think one show is the one that has the fireworks and the bomb sound, like the bombs dropping. I think it's just one show. And we didn't realize, because we had not seen that show before. We had seen the other one. We didn't realize that was coming. And so I felt bad because I was like, I'm trying to do something nice for my dad. And then I end up, he ends up getting triggered a little bit. And so it was definitely a learning situation. So that's definitely not something when you see Trans-Siberian Orchestra, you're not going to think, hey, this might be a show that might trigger sensory issues and things like that. But there are a ton of lights and theatrics, and it's very visually stunning. But yes, it is something to keep in mind if you ever buy tickets for yourself or for someone that who has sensory issues or PTSD, that it could definitely set that off. But yeah, so that has been your TSO moment. We had our corner later in the show today.
That's all right. Yeah, good things too.
Yeah, Nikki said they end the show with a shit ton of pyro, and it bothered our dad. They're very supportive of the military, but it's clear that they have not thought about loud pyro. Right.
It's really interesting because I've only noticed it, and I have noticed an actual consciousness being like made. There is a consciousness for people with triggers that are sensory involved. Because even when we were at the CCW show, they had an area where it was like, if you need to step out of the show and do it, here's the spot. And they've been doing that at a lot of wrestling shows where they have sensory.
That's awesome, where the indie shows are doing that.
Sensory rooms where it's like you can put your kids over here and they can still see the show, but they don't have to have the loud noises. Or even adult humans that have such things. Yeah. And it's right in there, and they tell you, hey, we might use these things. If you feel uncomfortable, here's the spot for you to go. And so I think there is an awareness, certainly at indie wrestling shows I've seen. And some, cool. I think a lot of ticketing venues or like outlets are doing it just as a sort of cover your ass.
Yeah, of course.
On their tickets. But I mean, better than nothing.
Yeah, right. So, at least there is an acknowledgement. At least
there are leagues and entertainers who are aware of this and are actually offering that kind of thing to people, where it's like, bring your kids with special needs or bring your people with post-traumatic stress, so that anyone can kind of still enjoy a live performance without having the overwhelming stuff.
Yeah, because those shows are long. They're like, because they
are long.
They tell a story. Yeah, and the TSO shows, like, they tell a story like throughout, like there's an intermission, like, so their shows are a good 3-4 hours.
Yeah,
so like that can be a lot for someone who may have some sensory issues or PTSD or any other, there's a lot going into it. But yeah, I would have never have thought that, TSO, and then I was like, whoa. So, and then that happens again, like you said, sometimes until you're in those situations, like you don't realize, like, hey, this could be something that could trigger somebody, and then you're like, oh, maybe we should do better next time. Like, it's the same thing with like food allergies and food sensitivities. Like, I went to the ballpark with Nikki, like when she was first diagnosed with IBS, like almost 10 years ago, and we were like, there's nothing for her to eat at this Braves game. So then you realize, like, hey, when you're in that situation, like and sometimes it just takes that awareness. You just don't know until you're in these situations, and you're like, wait a minute. And so, but yes, and I'm glad to see that some indie, because it's definitely cool that you see like the bigger companies do it, but to see some indie shows, like,
yeah, we were happy when we walked in, and that was like one of it was part of their whole thing where they were like, here's the sensory room, and we were like,
that's
awesome.
That's so cool. I love that they're taking that initiative, because they don't
everything I've seen from this promotion so far, it's all their stuff goes to charity. All of the stuff that they're doing out, and like they had one of their wrestlers come out and like talk to people at the beginning, and he was like kind of calling a little bit, being like, hey, are you happy to be here? And they had their podcaster there, and cool. It seems very, and there were a ton of different aged kids, and something I was talking to a friend about is it's still real wrestling. So you're still getting the edge.
Right.
But you can also bring your kids to it and not have them feel like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, or it just, so it's really cool. It's a good mix. One show under our belt. Next Saturday is the second show because it's the 15th. So that'll be the one that it's walking distance to my house.
Yes. That's so awesome. I love that.
And so I'll get another taste of how they do things. But it seems really great. And I mean, again, I know like the promoter lives in town. So.
That's so cool.
Or at least his wife has a shop in town. Let's say that. I don't know if you
go. All right. Now I will actually really get to the G1 stuff.
All right.
So this tweet is from Chris Samsa, and it says that the G1 Climax 34 will occur between July 20th and through August 18th. It says there will be 2 blocks of 10 wrestlers. There's a 30-minute time limit for matches. 18 participants will be announced next week. I don't know if this means next week as in because this is a new week, or if this means if it really means next week.
Yeah, right.
They're coming soon.
Sunday.
2 participants to be determined by a play-in tournament beginning June 22nd, which is very interesting. The top 3 wrestlers in each block will enter a knockout stage. The second and third place wrestlers in each block will wrestle to advance to the semifinal. The winner of the block will receive a bye to the semifinal. Winners of the semifinal matches will wrestle in the G1 Climax final on August the 18th. Then Chris quote tweeted himself and added that, hang on, that was the other way. He added that, there's been more quote tweets since I've looked at this. I didn't bookmark the quote tweet apparently. Hold on, I will tell you because I bookmarked something else of his. It was like key dates for the rest of the year. Apparently I bookmarked that, but not the other one. I'm going through his quote tweets now. I probably should have just gone to my timeline. It probably would have been faster because I retweeted it from him. Let's go.
G1.
Okay, here we go. Based off the announced schedule, it is possible that... Oh, wait. This is not it, but this is a good thing from Chris. He said, based on the announced schedule, it is possible that 3 G1 Climax events will feature both blocks in action. Okay, so here's the tweet I was looking for. The knockout stage of the G1 Climax 34 will be intra-block. The winner of A2 versus A3 will wrestle A1 in the semifinal. Then the winner of B2 versus B3 will wrestle in the B1 in the semifinal, and the G1 Climax final will definitely be A block versus B block. So it sounds like this is going to be a little confusing. Maybe once we have wrestlers to plug in, might be a little bit easier to see. So definitely sounds interesting. I do like, which I've seen a lot of people are very glad that it's just 2 blocks this year.
Yeah.
They like the 30-minute time limits, which I do too. I think that's smart. It's interesting that they are going to announce 2. So it sounds like it's going to be 20 participants overall because 18 are being announced next week. And then 2 will be determined by a play-in tournament beginning June 22nd. And then the top 3 wrestlers in each block will enter a knockout stage. So I guess that's where the last tweet I was reading, I guess that's where that comes into play. So it's a little confusing, and I'm sure it'll be because, when it comes to Japanese tournaments, there's people get confused with the way things happen. So yeah, this will be
once like someone plugs it in. I never do a good job like just reading that stuff anyway.
Yeah, and even reading it out
once you visualize it, once I kind of start, we have people that we know will do.
Yeah, so reading it because I obviously read it to myself, but reading it out loud helped a little bit, and I was like, okay, this makes a little bit more sense. But I think once we see an actual bracket and the wrestlers,
how that functions,
it will make more sense. And hopefully between now and then, if Jeremy and Steven don't get to it today, maybe they'll still have time to digest this information and talk about it on Thursday and explain it a little bit better. And Brad said that he believes that New Japan has a show on the 16th, so they'll probably announce it there or a press conference right before that. Okay, that makes sense. And so that is probably the next week thing that Chris was talking about.
That's Capital Collision, I think, because I think I saw somebody share. But
are they doing that at the Capital? Would they announce? I don't think they would announce. Well, maybe if they do a press conference, because I was going to say I don't think they would announce that at Capital Collision.
No, but maybe not.
But maybe they'll do a press conference. But yeah, so next week. So probably around the 16th, we'll know at least 18 of the people who are in it. But yeah, I'm excited for G1. If you've watched the show, you know that Mel and I love G1.
Best time of the year usually.
Yeah. Brad said no, it's a Japan show. Yes. And then so G1 usually brings out, it'll be interesting to see who they bring in it from America and who they put in, like who they go, because I always of course go back to our friend Carl Fredericks and what happened with him in the G1, and now he's in WWE kind of because of that, kind of pushed him to go there. And I saw that he's been out with injury, but he's back, and he's had these really cool promos that have like talked about him being Native American, and like there was one promo talking about how in the Native American, a lot of the traditions, how they believe in fire and fire to be like a cleansing thing. So he talks about that with his injury. And then there was another promo that aired like the following week, and it was talking about being representation for people who are Native American, which was really cool to see. So I really like the story that he seems to be telling, and I'm glad to see him. Sounds like he'll be back on TV. I don't think he's back already. I think he's on his way back. And so I don't watch NXT often. Sometimes if Javon Evans has a match, I will have somebody at me and tell me when he is on. I did kind of flip back and forth last week because there was rumors somebody was coming, and we thought, okay, well, Ethan, and I did see Ethan sign his contract. So Ethan did sign his contract. He is officially WWE. He has a match for the title, for the North American title today against Trick Williams, which would be really interesting because Trick Williams has not had that title very long. He's probably the biggest wrestler in NXT, I would say, at least most popular. I don't see how you bring Ethan in, have him go straight for Trick and cut a promo the way that he did. And he really put over Trick the other night. I just don't see how you do that and not have Ethan win. But on the other hand, it sucks for Trick because he struggled to get that title. But Ethan coming in and just winning it, and because the next NXT show, from what a couple people have told me, is in Toronto. It's called Heat Wave, and some people were saying they should do the title there. But then one of my followers made a really cool point that they could have Ethan win today, then have him go to Toronto to defend the title against Josh Alexander to keep the TNA promotion going with the inter-promotion stuff. And because he kind of made a reference to, he straight up, not anything about Josh personally, but he was like, I'm always in somebody else's shadow. That was clearly, I mean, you could also argue Matt Hardy because of that story they told, but I think it was more of the Ethan Page and Josh because of the North and that thing. So that would be, I was like, oh, that could be a really cool thing, that if they could have the North so they could have Josh Alexander represent TNA, do it in Toronto. They're both from Canada. Like that could be a really cool story. So Ethan Page may be winning his first WWE title today, which, good for him. So I'm very happy to see. I hope he does really cool things there. I'm really happy for him. And Brad says that Finlay versus Sonata is on the show and the junior tag titles. Oh, this Japanese show coming up on the 16th. Yeah, I saw that Finlay and Sonata had been kind of trading some jabs back and forth, because Sonata hasn't wrestled for a while because he's been injured. And then obviously they were doing BOSJ, so they weren't doing heavyweight stuff then. So so I'm glad to hear that New Japan had a really good show.
Me too.
Because I enjoyed so BSJ I got behind on, and so then we got to the point where we were skipping around, and like we watched every Kevin Knight match, and I think we watched like most of Haramu's matches, and I don't know if we watched every Clark Connors match, but we watched a good bit of those. We watched a lot of the Robbie Eagles. I think we watched every Kushida match. And so I know that we missed some, and then we watched the finale matches to get to the match for today. We did watch those. So BOSJ I really enjoyed. From what I saw, it was just really hard to keep up with, and especially now because I have less, because I have to dedicate 2 nights a week to WWE. It cuts into my New Japan time, and so that makes it harder to watch. But I'm glad that New Japan seems to be kind of getting back on track, hopefully. And now we've got the 10-point plan, and seems like Tana is working on it. So it'll be interesting to see, because I think he said something about giving him 12 to 18 months. So it'll be interesting to see where we are.
Well, essentially what they said was, the person said was that you couldn't really evaluate how he's done because it's only been 6 months. They felt like it needed at least a year to a year and a half before you could say, especially considering that he took the company over at a time when it's not doing well.
Yeah.
And he's brand new he even admitted as much. I'm brand new to business. I graduated high school or college and went to wrestling, and that's all I've done. And so, but also the people around him were saying that he's picking up. He's a really smart guy.
Yeah.
So that he's picking up the business portion of it. It's just, it takes time. There's a curve. There's a learning curve for anyone.
He's even brought up, like, the app, and the app rollout had some.
Oh yeah. He like totally, he covered everything. He talked about how he was apologized for the app issues. They were trying to make it better. They're going to keep fixing it. They're going to make sure that we have like a better service all the way around. I mean, he addressed, to his credit, everything, both Japanese and sort of global community.
Yeah, I saw him say, like,
it wasn't like Japan. It was not specifically Japan centric. It was macro view of where New Japan fits in the global picture of wrestling. And I like that.
I read it. And and if you have time today before they go live, Speaking Strong Style covered it as well, and talked about some of it. So he really, I think that Tana seems like he has a good grasp on where things are at now and where he'd like it to be in 12 to 18 months, and I like that he posted, like, he was like, here's our 10-point plan. Like, this isn't like an internal 10-point plan. Like, he's sharing it with the public to, I guess, probably hold himself accountable to, to the Japanese fans. And
Dave Flatt said that it's not the kind of thing wrestling promoters or people tend to do, is to say we're doing badly.
Yeah.
Which is essentially what he wasn't like saying we're doing, but he admitted, like, this isn't working. We're going to fix it.
Which is great. And I saw Chris Troughton tweet the numbers. Like, I think they had like 7,000. I can't remember if it was like 7,246 or 200. I forget the number for today's show, but he said
a little better than
it was an increase over last year. So he was like, it's nice to see, like, and he was like, especially because they did the BOSJ final was the main event. So, and he was like, people came to see it, which is really,
that's good.
Like, they're sick of the House of Torture bullshit, but also B, like, you can sell shows with the Super Juniors, which goes back to Haramo's point. Haramo has been, like, his goal has been, let the Super Juniors main event Wrestle Kingdom. Like, we can do it. Give us this spot. So maybe we don't get a Wrestle Kingdom main event, but we do have them. Dominion is a pretty big show. And so I think that's important, and the fans are like, hey, we will watch we will watch a show. We will come by your show if you put Super Juniors in your main event. Like, it doesn't always have to be the champion. It could be some other things, which I think is a cool thing to see.
He did focus a lot. He said specifically on the young talent front. He was like, a lot of people thought it was crazy when Okada won the belt at 23 too, and that. And when they put the belt on me in my 20s, everyone was like, what are you doing? He's like, I think we need to get back to that. And I was like, yes, because you have a ton of young talent right now. Like,
and they really do need to.
And they need to make new Japan. It's really true. They need to make new Japanese stars.
They do. Yep.
So, but I mean, I'm very like, if all of the stuff that he said, and I mean, he doesn't go Ace. That's it.
Right. Yeah.
That's it. I mean,
yes.
I believe in President Tanahashi.
I do too. I believe in Joe Hendry, and I also believe in President Ace.
Correct. Yes. Say their names and they appear.
Except on our show, apparently.
It could happen. We'll never know.
Maybe one day.
One day
we will say Joe Hendry's name, and he will appear.
He will appear.
And then he can be an honorary. And then he can be an honorary broad.
That'd be fun.
All right. I think we have covered. I think that's all of our topics today. We got an interview. We covered all of our topics, and it's less than 3 hours. And we have also, again, if you were tuning in late or have forgotten, make sure you come back. If you are a New Japan show, come back, or New Japan fan rather, come back at 5:30 for Speaking of Strong Style. Steven and Jeremy will be going over everything that happened today, what that means for the next set of things. I'm sure they're going to touch on some G1 stuff. So make sure that you come back and watch them at 5:30. And then they'll be back on Thursday. And then we will be back. Next week is Father's Day, but we will be here. We will be here, and we will. I don't, unless something happens, we will not have a guest next week. It'll just be, be us.
Not unless we have an impromptu weird
yeah, unless we have anything impromptu,
unless Joe Hendry actually appears. And
yes, or if Daza, or maybe Daza will be a special guest.
Maybe it won't be Daza. Maybe it will be someday. Maybe it won't be.
You never know. You have to tune in every week to find out.
Once he finds out, is he going to tell everyone? All right. So yeah, everyone have an excellent week.
Yes. See you next week.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Bye.
Bye.